What is up, PCP Army? How's everybody doing out there? Station! Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am Rockin Robbie Billups, and tonight it's time for a PCP conversation. But before we get into that, a couple quick announcements. Tomorrow night, PCP Movie Night. Boys in the Hood is the movie of the week, so watch it and discuss it with us live tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Central Time. And then Saturday night around 9:05 p.m. Central Time over at Dylan's Comics. Join us for Dylan's Horror Show. This week, we'll be ranking our top 10 creature features, whatever that means. But anyway, with us tonight is Chaos in Comics. Everybody give a mad station to Chaos in Comics.
Do the whole show in sign language.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
Station, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited to be here. It's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. We are very excited to have you here. I first noticed you in the chats on some of my streams, and then put the face to the name. And we've been on streams before with more people, but never one-on-one like this. And so I am on behalf of the PCP Army. Thank you so much for being here, Chaos.
I'm excited. I like one-on-one better because I get more talking time. I probably get equal talking time, but I don't have to talk over people as much.
That is true, you know. Though you get plenty of talking time on those, I would say. You're really good with the jabs. I like it. I was like, I like this cat. He seems pretty cool. So first question, Chaos. How'd you get into comics? That's what I want to know.
I guess 7-Eleven, you know. Actually, it's a pretty good story. I'm real hurt by the in fact, I don't even consider it just because it hurts me. What we consider the Gambit first appearance now. What is it again? It's the X-Men annual. Because for most of my life, I bought Gambit's first appearance at a 7-Eleven where I got into comics is what made me think of it. Like my dad would just buy me a comic at 7-Eleven while he was buying cigarettes and beer. Yeah. And it really hurts me that people consider the other one a first appearance now, because that was my story as I got Gambit's first appearance in 1991 or 2 or whenever it came out. But yeah, I just, I was a kid. The comics grabbed me. They were available at 7-Eleven then. There wasn't just direct market stuff. And it was like the thing my dad would buy me, and he supported it the whole time. So Perry's here. Look at that.
Look at that, Perry.
Why do people do $2.99? Is he trying to get below a tax bracket or something?
I don't know. I don't understand this. I think one time I super chatted someone $5 and it popped up $4.99, and I was like, "What is this?" I don't know. Yeah, are they trying to fool me into thinking it's less or more because there's no zeros? I have no idea. But thank you, Perry.
Maybe it's a 33%. You know what I mean? They want it to go evenly. They round down or something.
Yeah, maybe it is. Yeah. So okay, so you're saying that you bought a 266 on the rack at 7-Eleven.
On the rack at 7-Eleven.
And it bothers you that the X-Men annual or whatever it is, which actually is the first appearance, right?
Now.
Because it was released first, but all you see is what's considered a cameo, but the market always determines what's better. Like obviously Wolverine's actual first appearance is 180, but everybody wants 181. So it's kind of like still 266 is the creme de la creme when it comes to Gambit, right?
Is it? I don't know. We have to go look at what the slabs are selling for. I think CGC changed the 181, by the way. The market changed because CGC, I think, named it. Yeah. Because if you go look at all your Marvel cards, pre-95 Impel Marvel cards, they all say his first appearance is Hulk 180.
They do.
Yeah. And I think it's CGC that decided it was a cameo. I'm not sure. That's one thing. I mean, we really don't need to get into the one, especially that we agree. Really don't need to get into the 181 argument. But to me, what's changed on the market is the label on CGC. But we may have to do a little bit of searching on that one, like when CGC started doing that, how late and stuff. So
and wondering how it did Overstreet do it first? Because Overstreet lists it as cameo and full appearance, right? So
but even the 90s Overstreet did?
See, I don't know. We'll have to get some old school Overstreets. Hopefully they're not
I'm about to go run and grab a Wizard from 1995.
Don't trust a Wizard. I went to a comic shop when I was a kid. I bought some of my first comics at newsstands, like at convenience stores and stuff. But we had a healthy comic book shop, community here in the 80s and the 90s. So like, I went to this place called Jennings, and I totally forgot where I was going with that story.
Your first comic, how you got into comics?
Well, that's before that. That's a different story. Anyway, I got into comics because of my stepdad. He would send them to me. He was in the Navy. He would be stationed somewhere. He would buy comics, and then he'd send them to me. And then we would go to the grocery store, and I'd buy them, and I went to this comic. I don't even remember what we were talking about before that. Oh, The Wizard. Yeah, that's right. None of their back issues had prices, right? And they would look up. They would just grab a Wizard, some random issue of Wizard from behind them, and then they would look up the price. And, me being like a kid, I got like $10, and like they're like, okay, this one's going to be like $5, which back in 1991, that was a very expensive comic. And I'm like, I ain't got money for that. Put your damn prices on the books. Anyway.
Yeah, that happens though. That's worse today. Like your comic store was at the forefront of being an asshole. Because nowadays, like you used to be able in the 90s be able to get away with some of that, right? But nowadays, like if I go buy a record at a record store that's not priced or used one or like people just literally look it up on the internet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We'll price stuff based on the internet. Like if we get like a vintage toy collection, but we price it, we put a price on it. And I know that sometimes things fluctuate, but we kind of view it like if it goes up or if it goes down, and preferably for the customer, if it went up in value and we miss it, like, oh, well, I mean, we have an initial investment, and that's really kind of what we considered when we priced it. Right. So, yeah.
And and pricing it is fine. You know what I mean? But sometimes like you'll find, I don't even know. I thought I was like flipping through dollar vinyl or something, and I find like a Beatles, like a Beatles 10-inch or something, or single or something like that. And I went up there. I thought it was just going to be $1. It had like the instrumental on the other side or something like that. And then the guy looked it up, and it's like $6 for a song. He's like, "Is that good with you? I'll give it to you for $5. Is that good for you?" I was like, "It's just a fucking song, dude." Like
that's pretty pricey. I mean, back in the day, like 10 years ago, I would pay $3 for like 10 seconds of a song to put on my phone. That's a weird world back in the day, isn't it?
Yeah, that's going to be hard to explain to people that we like. Yeah, you pay. I remember I had the beginning of an AFI song for like years at the beginning. So even when I hear it now, when I hear that the very first song on the December Underground CD, when I don't know if you like AFI or whatever, but I just think of my my Nokia or something. It would have been pre smartphones. So yeah, to me that's a phone ring, not a song.
Yeah, no kidding. I have the same thing happen when like I hear Nothing But a G Thing.
Oh,
and and I had one time I had the fun thing where I had a Warren G song, where he's like, it's kind of easy when you're fucking with the G'd up sounds, Pioneer speakers pumping it. Yeah, that one. And we were at my girlfriend at the time's family's Thanksgiving, and they were doing this really weird circle prayer thing where we had to hold everybody's hands, and I didn't have my phone on silent, and it goes off in the middle of the prayer, and it was so funny. I loved it. It was great.
So it even had the curse word, the one that you bought off like some market.
It was edited. The curse word was edited out, but still.
Yeah, you hear the mother.
Yeah, and you hear the smoke on a pound, and all that stuff. Yeah, and I thought that's never happened to me, so I always thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that is pretty funny.
I used to play Snake a lot back in the day, and I remember when you had to text with like, you'd be like, tap 2 3 times, tap 5 1 time, all that stuff. Oh my goodness. Well, now we're dating ourselves. First thing.
I'll tell you what, I would go back to that. If I can have, and I don't know if you could just change SIM cards, but I'm pretty sure you can't have the same number on 2 phones. Because there are times where like I just admit, like I'm on my phone or whatever, and if I work or I'm focused or interested in something, I won't get off my phone. But if like there's a lull or I get bored, like if you're boring, don't be insulted. It's just a habit. I just might start reading. But there are times though where I wouldn't really do that to you, but there are times though where I want like 2 phones that do the same thing. I could turn one off, and sometimes I just want to walk around with my flip phone to make sure that my wife can call me, that my grandmother can call me if she needs me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that at least makes it a little bit cumbersome to send a text. So
yeah, it's really easy. It's too easy to have these things on us all the time, and they're too distracting. It would be nice.
Yeah, and I have
do you find that way?
What?
You think that like we're too much on screens nowadays or anything like that? Or on socials?
I am. I definitely am. I mean, I am for work, and then I am, then I am like after work. I mean, this is sort of embarrassing, and because I know you and we're technically millennials, but people don't really think of us as millennials, but we're technically we barely make it.
Yeah.
And my son's actually taken the phone out of my hand. My 3-year-old's actually taken the phone out of my hand. So that's sort of embarrassing to say a little bit. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at ways to discipline him on the phone. You know what I mean? But just kidding. But yeah, he's actually taken my no phone, daddy. Like he's actually told me that. So, I mean, obviously, I think it is, but I think it's something that we adapt to. You know what I mean? We adapt to these things. It's either going to work or not.
It's going to eventually be like Transmetropolitan, and they're all just we're already like, I've seen tons of this stuff. I don't know if you watched it, but they did a Brave New World series last year on Peacock. And this is the idea that everybody's connected. Basically, you're connected to the internet just biologically, and it's already there, and you're always on, and it's connected to you and your neurons and all that kind of stuff. And it seems like maybe we're actually going in a way. It's kind of like Transmetropolitan.
Yeah, but that'd be easier because then you'd want to turn it off sometimes. You know what I mean? You'd want to not pay attention to it.
Yeah, and I guess the big point in that one is you're not really allowed to turn it off. You're not allowed to have privacy in this world because they think privacy is being selfish. It's a whole other thing, right? It's based on the Huxley novel. But
yeah, I was going to say, so they updated it, obviously.
Yeah, I had never read the original novel, so I bought the original novel at a thrift store, or actually on thrift books, because I haven't been in an actual thrift store during this whole thing. But I haven't read it yet, but I wanted to read it to see, so have you read it?
No, I know the story very well, though.
Okay. Is there a lot of orgies and stuff in it, or was that just something Grant Morrison threw in there?
Yeah,
because he produced it.
I don't think there's a lot of orgies in there.
Okay, well, I think they updated it then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just being connected to the internet, they updated it because Brave New World. I don't want to talk about it like I've read it, and we could talk about other books I've read, definitely, but it's not known as being very sexual as far as I know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the show is.
Yeah. I'll
tell you that. Comic Crazy with Super Chat. Thank you for 10 songs for your downloads or one DC comic. Nice zinger there at DC.
Yeah, that's a killer, man. I can't do that.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I get to read them before I decide to pay.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that probably really helped. Where did you first start getting hits? The comic review show, right?
Yeah, the weekly comic review.
I mean, because then you're first to market with that and consistent. That's going to help a lot. So.
Yeah, I also think I do it in a good way, but
Well, you also have to be good at it. That's the third. That's the other thing too.
But yeah, I got to do it first. I used to release them on Wednesday nights in the early days. I only did 10 comics, and just kind of talked about it, and then. I mean, it's basically what I do at work all day is the same spiel. Like, hey, have you read this one? This one's like this about this, blah, 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 blah. So I guess I got good at kind of encapsulating a pitch on a book without really spoiling it, but kind of exciting the customer or whatever. And,
yeah, you do good at that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But, so I just started when we started doing that, and it was because in the early days I didn't think anybody cared about comic book content. We were trying to do a podcast mostly about movies and stuff like that. So, and we still do the movie content, but it's the comic content that really kind of started us growing. And we are now everybody on the road to 10K. So, indoctrinate everybody into the PCP army. Share the hell out of the channel. We get already putting the prize package together, and John has made me promise to do some kind of a kaiju movie set. So we're doing that too. It's going to be in there. Cool. It's going to be a whole prize package. It's going to be pretty dope. So what made you get into starting a YouTube channel?
My channel was originally called Not Part of Your Scene. And, really it was, music channel to show, if you look at my first videos, I'm showing vinyl and stuff. And it was really Mike Seatown. He probably aligns with my musical taste the most. He likes hip hop and black metal and stuff like that. And then Anthony Fantano, that's probably the most famous music reviewer on, and a bunch of guys like that. And that's what it really started as. And then I thought, I thought that I would be special also showing comics. Like that's my other thing, right?
Yeah.
And then like as I started showing comics and putting that, on in the tags and stuff, like your videos started popping up, and not so much Jim. Jim really started doing comics in the last, like have a focus on comics the last few months. He was mostly omnibuses, but a lot of statues and stuff. But like you, Bueller back then was under 1,000 when I started, so I followed him right away, and then obviously Comic Tom was just starting too. I think he was over 1,000 then, but he was just starting. He was not, they were still like sharing one microphone. They were all like sitting around when I started doing that, and then all these videos started popping up, and I found this community that we're actually like the second or third wave of, by the way. There are people that have like gotten jaded in the comic community that, from 4 or 5 years ago that are still sort of sticking around. Like Sleepy Reader is one. So through Bueller's channel, you might know who he is, Damien, right?
Yeah.
And he's been doing this for like 9 years. You know what I mean? So anyway, so I mean, that just happened. Like it started just because I would use YouTube for music and music videos, and then like more like vinyl and music stuff, you know what I mean? And then when I started doing comic stuff, I found I thought I was special. And then I found there's this whole community of it. So, and then I ended up being very active in the community. And then I was like, well, I'm going to change my name. This channel will be more of a comic channel, even though, I mean, I'm probably this last probably 3 years, I used to be just a graphic novel reader. And so this last 3 years, I've been buying a ton more floppies. You know what I mean? And to be honest, looking back on it, and this is probably a good conversation too, like looking back on it, it's fun to buy floppies, like to stay current. But like if I ever got bored of going on YouTube and talking about comics and stuff, I probably immediately, and I think I'm doing it now, I probably immediately switch back to like the full arc. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think that's a better way to read a lot of these books. I mean, ever since the early 2000s, the stories became so decompressed. When we were growing up, they were pretty much like, even if it was an ongoing story, they were trying to do one story or one thread, one full, thought in one issue. And they really acted back then like this could be somebody's first comic. They would do a lot of catch up. They would over explain things, to benefit new readers. And ever since it changed, it really changed with things like, it was like the Ultimate Marvel and the Authority and that whole impact to make comic books a bit more cinematic. And so what they started doing, we had Alex Packnadell on the channel one time, and he brought this up, and I never realized this, right? But he said that when they were doing that Ultimate's Authority, Brian Hitch type stuff, right? They moved all the panels, the typical grid structure, to widescreen to make it easier for people to understand how to read a comic, right? But it then decompresses the whole thing.
Yeah.
I never thought about it like that. Like it's a way to make it, because to me, I was like, oh, they're widening the action. That's cool. They're making it more cinematic, more
but what are you
epic
talking
in
about?
scope.
Bigger. You're saying that panels got bigger?
Yeah, like have you ever read Warren Ellis's The Authority? Or
the beginning. I've never finished it. I mean, Warren Ellis is I've never finished it. There's a lot of runs. This is another good topic. There's a lot of runs I've never finished because I've read them, and because it was back in the day where you would just sort of jump in, read a little bit.
Yeah.
But I have. So, but you're saying that.
So with Authority, like Brian Hitch and Warren Ellis and Mark Miller. So with the Authority and the Ultimates, they started doing these widescreen panels, and they just would like maybe 4 or 5, and they just would make it feel more cinematic in scope. And then they decompressed the script so that they felt more like you're watching a movie. And it was to help new readers coming in this new wave of superhero movies, because it helped establish the tone. If you read the Ultimates, that's pretty much like exactly what they went for in the Avengers films, Yeah.
So I haven't read the Ultimates, but I remember the Authority sometimes getting a little bit dense too.
Yeah, it would. But just talking about the idea of the widescreen panel and how it kind of overtook, because it used to be, I mean, we're getting back. There's still always been excellent panel design and composition.
Yeah.
And lots of intricate things. But that it started decompressing comics, both in art and the script.
But you wouldn't say Early Image did that? Like with every third page being like a splash page with a couple small.
Oh, that's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
but even then, those are actually, if you look at it as a way to get a novice comic book reader to understand how the flow of a comic book page works, some of those image books get kind of clunky with their layouts. These were but they did they definitely established the splash page.
They were definitely clunky with their layouts and stuff. But when I'm like comparing, like when I read, because I actually don't think it's a good experience to read Claremont X-Men. I don't think it's that great. I think Claremont X-Men is great to read on Marvel Wikia. Because the ideas are great. I think it's very cumbersome to read, right? But that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking those more widescreen panels, like you said about Authority, even though sometimes I got a little bit dense. But Brian Hitch does that too. Even Batman's Grave's been like that. Even like his new stuff is like that. But then I'm comparing the first thing I think of that was different from, that 70s and 80s Claremont stuff was, and it was actually dumber. So I'm not defending, Bloodstrike and stuff like that, was that those image books, you know what I mean? But it's still different. It wasn't great panel design in general. And it also wasn't the widescreen, right? It wasn't guiding you. It was mostly just Prophet stabbing someone in the face. You know what I mean? So.
But that was dynamic. And that got, our 11, 12-year-old faces all like, I'm reading through Spawn right now and I'm doing it with the view of, I'm a huge McFarlane and Spawn fan. I'm a kid again. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. When I read it with a critical lens, I rip it apart. I spent most of my life hating Spawn. And I learned to let go. I'm in the 80s right now.
Oh yeah. So it has big lulls, and I've not read it straight through. I've come in and out of Spawn. Like I recently came back into Spawn around like 275, but I've never read 150 through like 274. But it has lulls. Like I think they actually did a good job with their centennial issue, with their 100th issue. And I think it starts getting better. What the best part of Spawn is, where you are right now, and that you can do with a critical eye, but not critical like this is good or this is bad, is what you get to see in Spawn. I can't remember when he ended though. Is see Greg Capullo turn to a powerhouse artist, because there's a noticeable decline when McFarlane stops and he starts. Yeah. Right. But then, and everyone says that, but no one talks about how great he was at the end of his run. How beautiful the books were.
I'm pretty sure I'm at the end of his run. My buddy Kevin, who's a comic book artist professionally, and he's a huge Capullo fan, and he says that he at least makes it to 100, even though he probably misses some of the run up to it. But you're right. I mean, it's fantastic. I think it's better than the McFarlane stuff from the early days.
At the end.
I like the Capullo stuff. Even when it switched to him, I liked it. And I think that I think he's continuing to get better. Like when I read his Batman run, I think it's great. I don't think it's the greatest Batman stuff ever, the Snyder run, but I do like it. But I do think that his Batman work was him evolving into like a sleeker, better, more. I think he just continuously gets better. And it's amazing because most artists kind of get sloppy and rushed as they age. And he's just getting better and better, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, and that's amazing. And then his finished work's not only good, the way I hear it is that he's like actually like good, like hits deadlines and stuff, and can do all that detail and that action sort of story, and and have a high turnaround rate. And it's true, because it seems like there's always a Capullo book out. You know what I mean? So, so I think so critical, sometimes when we say critical, we mean like it, didn't like it, like criticizing something, but critical academically also means like looking at things through certain lenses.
Exactly.
Right. Like, like there's a, feminist criticism, etc. Right.
Yeah. I used to be very binary when it came to that. Like it's either good or it's bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And so you can really look at it through that critical eye. I think that's the best way. When I go back and read Spawn, one day I'll read it the whole way through too. When I go back and read Spawn, that's something I'll definitely do, because I've noticed the difference, and I don't think I don't have this memory where I was looking for it, right? But I've seen later Capullo 90s issue, you know what I mean, whatever, and then when he took over at whatever it was, 30 or whatever it was, and that's a great way to look at it, so. But yeah, I've always thought Spawn was cool, but I have this thing though where, and I'm going to go back to talking a little bit of crap about Claremont, and it's not talking crap though, but people look
It's okay.
back,
He's kind of a douchebag, but he's kind of cool at the same time.
he's super important, and his ideas in X-Men changed everything, and you know what I mean?
I had to do 2 panels 2 separate times with him. And the first time, it was one of the most amazing experiences. And I used to always kind of be harsh on his work because I always thought it was like the dialogue's not good. It's melodramatic. It's overly verbose, and it just kind of stagnates the flow, I think, because he works with some great artists, you know, and I think that he hinders their flow sometimes. But I had an amazing conversation with him on the stage and off the stage, and a great time getting an ice cream cone and a Coke with him. And then this last time, he was like a complete jerk, and he was so condescending.
That's funny. Well, I mean, people when they hear me, they think I don't like him, and I do like him. My problem is that people think it's like classic writing, like, and what you just said is right on. You know what I mean? And and the things he says about like Hickman's run, that why don't they? Every mutant that's in a book needs to use their powers within the first whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
it's an old school approach, you know, and it's the things have changed.
My issue is that I want those people to admit that that's pulp for their generation, where I can admit Spawn is pulp. You know what I mean? I love Lady Death and Chaos comics too, right? Evil Ernie, I love all that stuff. You know, I can admit it's pulp. I think it's a ton more readable than, I think those, and this is a hot take alert, I think those books are a ton more readable than Claremont. You know what I mean? And this is someone like, I'm decently well read too. So this is not like where someone can come in and tell me, well, you know, oh yeah, you know, like I'm not as intelligent because I don't, you know, read as much, or there's too many words. Like, it's cumbersome. It really is cumbersome, you know? I don't need what's her name from the Shi'ar telling me that she doesn't digest human food well, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, she's just like narrating the book, you know?
There's a way to do it where it can work, but he doesn't do it well. And the only way to make a verbose comic work for me is to be very good at dialogue that's snappy. Like Bendis was back in the day, not so much today, but he really was to me back in the day. Yeah. And there would be a lot of words on the page, but that page took you like 5 seconds to read, you know, but Claremont dialogue's not his knack.
But it was the style of the day, right? And
it was.
And I'm okay with it. Like, it bothers me that people like consider that, and it is a classic. It bothers me that people consider that like a high watermark. The ideas were a high watermark. Right. That's
how I feel when people start talking about Stan Lee being one of the greatest comic book writers of all time.
Same, but I don't think anyone thinks he's technically great. I think people know now what he was, you know, and which is fine. Like, we wouldn't have comics without Stan Lee. It doesn't matter how talented you are if you can't market. You know what I mean? So. Oh,
he's a very important and great figure.
But, yeah. So Stan Lee's
like Lovecraft technically, I think is a poor writer, but I love Lovecraft stuff. So, does that make sense? I mean,
that's pulp too, right? Like, he's just, you know, it's amazing how much of the stuff I read that was racist, and I didn't realize was racist, by the way, until I read
goodness.
Right. Yeah. But
speaking of Lovecraft,
but and then I read it later, or I read criticism about it, like but that's pulpy too, right? Yeah. So I think there's you can find good in pulp, you know, but my problem is everyone's saying how fun and imaginative Lovecraft is. No one's calling him Shakespeare. Like, everyone's just admitting they had fun with it. Right. And that's the same to me with Claremont X-Men, but it's not technically good, you know, and it's especially not technically good compared to the level of writing we have today, whether you like some of these guys or not. Like, they are legitimately good at writer. They're like legitimately good writers, you know?
I think that really started with that British invasion with Moore and Gaiman and Milligan and Morrison. And it really elevated the art form, I think. And I think that as much crap as the 90s get, something moving? Do you hear something rustling? As much crap as the 90s can get, I think it gave us some of the absolute best comic book writing ever. I mean, you look at the Vertigo work, look at some of the DC stuff, and
100%. That's 100% true. And I love that you threw Milligan in there because he gets forgotten. I mean, he's not on my all the guys that you mentioned like can have a spot on my Mount Rushmore of writers. And he's not quite on there, but he always gets forgotten and shouldn't be. You know,
he shouldn't be. I mean, Shade the Changing Man. I remember reading that when I was a kid, not getting a bit of it, but just being obsessed with it for some reason.
Yeah, I find the White Noise guys, and you just mentioned Alex Packendell, and I just got his Turncoat book, by the way. I heard a great story. You know that two of them. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. I feel like they have that style of writing. All four of them, in fact.
I agree.
Maybe with Packendell being a little bit, as far as I could tell, a little bit more, plot driven and scripted. You know what I mean? But they all, and that's not a good or bad thing. Like Ram B and stuff like that. I think that jazz book that was your number one book, right?
Yeah, last year for sure.
Yeah, that was and it was in my top 10 for sure. So Blue and Green was great. I think they have that sort of abstract style, like that you got out of that first wave of British writers, Yeah. So I love them. I've been reading a ton of their stuff. I just finished volume 1 of Paradiso from Ram B. Like, I didn't realize some of this stuff came out, and I only 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. Like some stuff really sneaks by you. Like, I can't believe the way that can sometimes happen,
Yeah.
I read Deep Roots from John Waters.
Dan Waters.
Or John. Yeah, sorry,
John Waters, completely different dude.
Yeah. I read Deep Roots from Dan Waters. Was great, And then I guess one of the ways I heard Ron V just talk about this off to the side. I guess one of the ways they got together, and did the White Noise Studios because Packendell and then the I know I corrected your pronunciation like an asshole the other day. Can you correct mine for his name?
Packnedell.
So Alex Packnedell and what's his name that wrote Fearscape?
Ryan O'Sullivan.
Yeah, Ryan O'Sullivan. So all four of them White Noise, for those in the chat that don't know. They both wrote a book independently called Turncoat. Yeah.
That's why his is it's Packnedell and Turda whatever. It's the creators' Turncoat.
Yeah.
Like he talked about that when he was on the show. I thought that was hilarious. He said that's how he met him.
Yeah, that's how, and I think that's how they sort of got together. And then one of them was friends with Ron V, and then they realized that they were just this new like British writing group, And I wish them all the success in the world, because that's that really is the kind of writing that hits me. That isn't like, I don't want to say it's not clear, you know what I mean? But it's that you can put a lot of interpretation into it,
It's a bit more challenging. It requires a little bit more out of the reader. It just doesn't spoon feed you everything, right?
Exactly.
And some people, that's what they want. And I respect that, and that's cool. If that's what you like, then digest it. I love shit like that too. But I love things that make me think and make me feel. And those four cats do it like crazy. By the way, Alex is coming back to the channel, to the show this year. And so is Ram. So is Ryan. So is Dan. We're going to have all four of them. Everybody, so get ready for great White Noise conversations. And Ram should be in the next month and a week. So we haven't picked down a day yet, but I'm very excited because he is about to really freaking blow up. I think too. We'll see. I think his Swamp Thing run. Did you read the Future State Swamp Thing he did?
I read number 1. I haven't gotten to number 2 yet, but I do have it. I read, in the first week and a half of the year, I read over 100 comics, and then I got busy at work. So now now I've gotten behind, kind of thing. But I read number 1 and number 2 came out, and I haven't gotten to it quite yet. In fact, I just bought it digitally because I wanted to make sure I could read it at a bar or restaurant or something. And yeah, that Swamp Thing was great. The new Swamp Thing is going to be the guy's going to be Indian, so that's great. I think that artist that he works with from India is also really underrated.
Anand RK or whatever.
Yeah.
They're doing Radio Apocalypse together from Vault this year.
Yeah, that's coming out real soon. So yeah, they got so much fun stuff coming out, and I've been catching up as much as I can on their backlog, because they actually have a ton of stuff that isn't super indie. It's Turncoat's on Boom, and the other Turncoat's on Image, right? It's an Image book, I think, or it's on Boom. I don't think it's an Image book. Excuse me, but
I know Alex's is the Boom book, and then he did Arcadia on Boom. If you haven't read Arcadia, it's brilliant. I think
I just bought it. It like came in the mail like last week, so it's
nice.
I just have to make sure it doesn't get. I have so much stuff. Like everyone, I have so much stuff I haven't read.
And I think Dan did Limbo with Casper, and Casper's kind of the unofficial White Noise member, but they don't like to credit him so much because he's an artist, not a writer.
He's artist. Well, but so is that artist we just mentioned that does a lot of Ram B books. You know,
yeah. And so I think they're amazing, but I think they did Limbo together, and then Ryan O'Sullivan did Void Trip, which is kind of like a space version of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I read Void Trip.
I really liked Void Trip.
Yeah. It had you know what it had a feel of? If it had a feel of that Matt Fraction book Odyssey, but like maybe more fun.
Yeah, I only ever read the first couple issues of Odyssey. I didn't quite wrap. I mean, I got it, and I don't think I got it, but I understood enough. But then I don't know. Matt Fraction, I really liked Matt Fraction when he first came out. Like I remember reading a book of his called The Last of the Independents. It's from AIT Planet Lore, which was probably like what we would consider Vault and Boom today. That was the early 2000s version of that. And they had a lot of great creators do great books. Brian Wood got his start there. Warren Ellis did work there. Switchblade Honey's pretty much his version of Star Trek. And I still love a lot of that work. And that's where I got to know Matt Fraction because he came up through the Warren Ellis message boards, the Warren Ellis forum. And I used to be on there, but not as active as they were, obviously. Yeah. And because Fraction's not even his name, you know, but he had to call himself Matt Fraction because that's what everybody knew him from the message boards. But I got really sour on his work for a while because I felt like he kind of was a quitter because he left his Fantastic Four run and he would just kind of dip out. And I thought he was I think his Hawkeye run was brilliant, right? But I kind of thought that his X-Men run was kind of mediocre. And I just kind of got this idea of just not liking him. And Fantastic Four is my favorite superhero mainstream book of all time. And I will always read Fantastic Four no matter how bad it is. And I hated his run. And then he quit. And he had to have Mike Allred kind of wrap it up for him. And I had a really sour taste in my mouth. And I think that affected all of my Matt Fraction reading for several years. And then I met him in 2019 at Charlotte at Heroes Con. And I met him at the con. And Jimmy Olsen was about to kick off. And I had him sign my Fantastic Four #1 that he did because I had Bagley sign it the year before. And I was just telling him, he's talking to me how sad he was that he didn't get to finish that run. Right. And then I'm like, well, that's awesome, man. I really appreciate that. I was like, by the way, I read your Jimmy Olsen little backup story in this Bendis book, and I hate Jimmy Olsen, but I thought that story was really good. And then he shows me the next 3 issues that hadn't even come out yet. He lets me flip through colored versions of them. And he tells me all this stuff about every time he writes Superman, he feels like he's being watched by God, and he has to stand up straight and make sure he knows how to do it. And then I met him at the bar later on that night, had a cool little conversation with him on my way to the bathroom. And since then, I've just been the biggest fan of Matt Fraction. So maybe I need to revisit Odyssey. That was a long way to getting back to saying I should revisit that book.
Yeah, Odyssey is not typical Matt Fraction. In fact, it probably feels to me like one of those White Noise books. But see, I don't love Adventure Man. I do think that $20 huge hardcover is a great deal. But I mean, I don't love. There's only one guy that should write like that, like the way that Adventure Man's being written. I'm a pulp. You know what I mean? I'm writing overly pulpy stuff because I'm a literature guy, and that's the only guy that really can do that and make it work is Alan Moore to me. Okay. But and I was
wondering if you were going to say Howard Chaykin. I was like, what?
No.
I don't know why I was thinking that. Sleepy Reader's here, by the way. We gave you a shout out earlier, buddy.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
One time I called him the first generation of the comic book community. He goes, no, I feel like I'm the second. I'm like, oh, there was one before you? It was like, what is this Galactus shit?
When I started, I thought that the only comic book people were Comic Pop, Comic Storian, and Comics Explained. I thought that was it.
Yeah.
And I felt so alone for a while until one day I saw a few videos here and there. I saw some Tom stuff. I saw some Jim stuff. And there were a lot of people that have channels that were in my chats. And it never even occurred to me that maybe they had channels attached to those. Right. you were one of them, right? I just thought these were cool, like names that people were coming up with for their handles, right? And then I started noticing certain things like Comic Tom and Jim, and people kept talking about comics with Bueller. And there was a guy, Joe Ryan, that I kind of befriended for a moment. Then he kind of quit doing the YouTube stuff.
He's quit twice. He's quit twice, by the way. Yeah.
He was a great dude, man. I loved his videos. Yeah. He's the one who recommended the camera that we bought when we got a camera last year. But and I always heard people mention Bueller, but I never watched any Bueller videos. And I think I maybe watched one, and it seemed too busy for me. And so I just kind of dipped out. And then Jim one time invited me on his channel, and I got to know all those guys and a bunch of others like Matt and Chad from Boy Who Had Seven, and
Matt's great.
90 MF. Yeah. And so and then I realized, man, there is this whole freaking community, man, and I love it. I think it's one of the best things out there. And also that we all at times have our sub communities too. Like we got the PCP Army here, and they're part of the larger community, but I mean, they're in other people's chats, throwing out stations all the time, and I love it. I just think it's great.
So I think it's funny because I definitely watched your videos a lot, right? You would come up, but I always saw like the only big channel, and Tom would pop in and out. You know, I mean, especially he was getting a lot of hate for a while. He's probably gotten the most hate, which I feel bad for, but he'd pop in and out. But they're the bigger channels. Like the let's say above 5,000 channels, you know, I felt like they were almost separate. Like they're doing their own thing, and they figured it out, and they hit the algorithm, and you were one, right? And Jem was like that, and Tom more or less was like that. Comic Pop still feels like that. Like Comic Pop feels like he's his own thing, right? Like not necessarily part of the community, but a big comic channel. Yeah. Not good or bad thing, right? And I remember, I feel like, to be honest, you got to give Dylan a little bit credit. I feel like, and then and the comic group professor too. I feel like Dylan showed up and like just started having all of these big channels on his like 200 sub channel at the time.
Yeah, like, he did. Like I mean, he honestly did.
A lot of people. You weren't there yet. Like he hadn't like really talked to you yet. But there's a Christmas stream on Dylan's 200. So it would have been what? 2020. So it would have been last year. So it would have been Christmas 2020. If you go to Dylan's channel on his 200 person at the time, 200 sub channel, he had the professor. I popped on. So he had the comic professor. He had Bueller. He didn't quite have Jem. And he had all these big channels that just showed up on his channel, you know what I mean? On Christmas, you know? So, and I feel like he, like, give him a little credit. I feel like, at least for me, like he had a little part in just being like, you know, like
in bridging it,
like bridging it. Right. Because to be honest, like if
I was on the New Year's stream, by the way, the very next week.
You were, the next week. Yeah. So
I was on the New Year's stream.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, man. There's something about Dylan that just, when Dylan was like, bro, you want to get on the stream? I was like, sure. And I don't know how he coerced himself popping into the gym stream. That was the first time I was ever on stream with him. Yeah. And then he's like, here's Dylan. And it was so funny because he was so, like, I went back and looked at it like recently, and he was so freaking nervous, and it's great. I love it. But like Dylan's become one of my greatest homies, you know?
Oh, yeah, Dylan's great. Well, I feel like you stole Dylan from me, if you want me to be honest.
I did, probably.
I feel like he just started. I feel like he goes, oh, that Robbie has like, you know, 8,000-9,000 subs. I'm gonna hop over there, you know, because I was on Dylan all the time. We were on Second Street Marvel's channel together, doing the Krakoa focus show, you know. So I mean, I'm a little jealous, to be honest.
Well, we started doing horror movie reviews.
Yeah.
I mean, what really happened was, so he was always in the streams, right? Dylan's comic book rants at the time. And I would always, you know, chat with him. And there was a name I recognized. Eventually you just recognize names, and then you start figuring out personalities. Right. And I just seemed like, I like this Dylan guy. He seems cool. And then he was on the stream with Jim, and then he messaged me on Instagram, which I never used at the time. And I realized, like, oh, this is where they all are. They're on IG, and like literally that's where like I message everybody pretty much.
I don't know why you didn't message me there. You just messaged me on Twitter. So
I don't know why. Like I saw you on Twitter, and I was like, I'll just message you here. I didn't even think, because I don't even like IG notifications pop up and I just get rid of them. Like I
yeah.
I don't even go on there. But now I'm on there every day because of my conversations with Dylan. But he brought me onto his channel and we spent the whole night pretty much talking about horror movies. And it just like I've got a lot of people around me that I can talk to about comic books and toys and movies and TV and all this nerd stuff. But I don't have too many people that are that deep into horror. And that was just a bromance. That was destiny. It's just
and I knew he was a big horror fan, but it wasn't until like your guys' streams where I'll pop in a little bit and be like, I like be amazed at his knowledge. Like I didn't realize he was that deep into it, you know, like I like horror, but I need it with a twist. Like it can't just be horror. It has to be like Event Horizon horror mixed with science fiction. You know what I mean? Like I have like another pool into it, you know, like I actually messaged you two on IG about I can't even remember the name of the movie now, but it was a newer horror movie.
The Possessor or something like
Possessor,
that.
Yeah, Possessor. That like, you know, it was on a lot of top 10 lists. You know, it was like the one horror movie on a lot of people's top 10 lists that maybe watch other kinds of movies. And I go, well, I'll try that one, right? And that was pretty cool because it had the weird, you know, Star Trek bent. You know, like you go take over someone else. You have this technology where you could take over someone else's body, and then there's like it's basically a group of hitmen that do that, right?
Yeah.
And but then it was Cronenberg's son, so it's like was super violent. I was like, oh, see, that's cool. You know what I mean? When like, so Dylan and like you too, like are huge horror fans, like the genre alone, you know, in and of itself, you know what I mean? But I like the horror stuff when I got that other like sci-fi bend, especially sci-fi bend to it.
I'm even more selective than Dylan is. Dylan knows so much. He's like a walking encyclopedia, right? Like, and he schools me on horror, and it's because I'm way more selective, and I've had to learn to be a little bit more selective because there's a lot of just garbage out there. And so sometimes you just see things and you just kind of get it. But Dylan like watches it all, right? And he's learned stuff from me. Like he was not well versed in Italian horror at all until he met me. And now he's messaging me all the time about Fulci and Bava and all this stuff. And I'm like, hell yeah, man. And he's making me watch some shit, man, that I just would never watch otherwise. But I'm having fun with it, man.
Well, when you're like when that's your genre, like, you know, even music, like if you like death metal, or, you know what I mean? Or if you like 90s hip hop, like if that's your genre, like you can like what other people would consider generic. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't get into those generic horror books or horror movies as much. Like I would need something more special, you know what I mean? But I could watch a shit ton of generic sci-fi.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like I could just compare it and be like, oh, this would have been better with this was interesting because it was written well, or this really did need a little bit more of a budget, you know? So, yeah. So, I mean, it's clearly from watching your guys' horror show. It was clearly like his thing, you know what I mean? He's also read a ton of Stephen King books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like that's like, I remember.
That was another thing that bonded us is that we had the same copy of Salem's Lot.
That's good.
Yeah.
Right.
We got some questions from the chat for you, Chaos, if you don't mind answering them.
Oh, of course.
Robbie Bateman. We call Robbie Bateman the Robbie from Earth 2. He says, Station, question. What is your favorite metal band and or album? What is your favorite comic title to read?
Man, metal band, and that's hard because I change so much. You know what? I'm going to go with current favorite, or maybe a recommendation would be a band called Dawn Raid. Let's do that. Let's do a band. This band's good too. They're from Colorado, Chemists. This one's a little bit more, this band here is a little bit more listenable. Dawn Raid is like far leftist black metal. So like really piercing screams and stuff. What was the other part? What is your favorite comic title to read? Right now is probably what was my number one? Well, Strange Adventures was my top 5. That's what came to my mind immediately. I think Tom King's writing even better in the what we talked about earlier, the wider panel, the 3-panel form. Even though I think he writes great dialogue and the 9-panel works, you know what I mean? I feel like I've gotten a lot, and it didn't take me forever to read when I read Strange Adventures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm a pro. I'm one of the few. Me and the guys from the Comic Burrito, one of the few strongly pro Heroes in Crisis people.
Oh yeah, I'm not one of y'all.
Yeah, strongly pro. So I even
Justice for Wally. Come on.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about Wally. I'm also not a DC guy. Although I did win Wally. I did win on Comic Book Poser's channel. I won the Wally versus. I can't even. I hate the fucking Flash, to be honest.
Okay.
I can't even remember the other one's name.
Barry?
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot Barry. But I did win that debate. and I had to go study up on the Flash. My wife.
Did you pick? Were you Wally?
Huh?
Were you debating for Wally?
Yeah, I had Wally.
Yeah, Wally is the better Flash. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah. But Barry has passionate fans.
Yeah, he does. That's why they brought him back. Wally was my Flash when I grew up reading Flash comics. It was always Wally.
Yeah, so I didn't read any Flash. My wife literally knows more about the Flash than me because she watched the TV show, and I can't. Yeah, and those CW shows are, to me, are unwatchable. And it's funny. She aside from like me being able to name the villains and stuff like that, she literally knows more about the Flash. I always thought the Flash was somewhat unreadable. And especially if they felt they needed to just continually build up his powers nonstop. Since 1985, you know, that's really the problem with DC in general, is that everyone had to be a god, even Batman with no powers. But yes. So anyway, I forgot why we were talking about the Flash, but I think Strange Adventures right now is one of my favorites. I'm a huge Tom King guy. I think he's a win every time. Sometimes a little bit of problems with ending stuff. You know, he's very much a seat of your pants writer. And much like Game of Thrones, sometimes there's trouble ending stuff because you just put people in a room and see what they say to each other, kind of thing, you know? So sometimes there's trouble with endings, but I'll go with Strange Adventures, and I might think of something else in a little bit. I forgot what my number 1 comic was, to be honest. So
okay. I think Tom King does so well at these lesser cared about characters, and he's able to do what he wants to do. Strange Adventures, Rorschach, and Batman Catwoman, which I think his Batman run has got a great idea that should have been done in 50 issues, but it's kind of up and down and inconsistent for me because it went so long. But this Batman Catwoman to me is even further above that. But I'm sure it's because since it's DC Black Label, it's not as tied into editorial restraint. Mark 82 says, what are some of your favorite non-American OGNs?
Oh, this is Mark. Mark loves us both, by the way. Mark's a great guy.
Mark.
Yeah, he's. It's hard because his name is Mark 82, so he doesn't always stick out. But Heroes in Crisis where King left a bad taste. See, everyone says that, but you know, maybe you should go listen to me and the Comic Burrito talk about how much we like it. So Mark is from Italy, lives in New York, very cool guy. And I like, and he already knows the answer to this because I talk to him sometimes, but I really like Malataire. So that's a French comic. And I don't know that it's available in print, but it is available on Comixology where I read it. And then I like another one called Black Water Lilies, which after I read it, I thought it was amazing. And after I read it, I found out it was a novel. But Black Water Lilies is an incredible book that everyone should read. And what's great about this book is, and why I was surprised that it was a novel, is that it's set in Monet's hometown, the painter. But the art in the book, which is why it surprised me that it was a prose novel. The art in the book has a very specific Monet feel to it, you know, and it's this great murder mystery in his little city that is basically a tourist town because it's where he's from, you know. So I'll go with those two for now. One that a lot of people have read that I liked well enough, but I thought the art was questionable, and also forcing it into the American comic dimensions sort of effed it up. But Vlad Dracul was good. So I think you read that. You read Dracula, right? From
Yeah,
Scout.
from
Yeah.
Scout. Yeah, with Muty on the artwork. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. And then
So that was in a different format originally?
it looks to me like it was. When I read it, I found that a lot. So I mean, European books have that normally have that square format.
Yeah, like a 2000 AD or something like that.
Like 2000 AD, exactly. Like I mean, yeah, the only reason we have our format was like the comic code bullshit, right? I don't think I've ever seen a European comic. I don't think I've ever seen a European comic in our dimensions that wasn't just shipped there. But anyway, I think it looks to me like they fit Vlad Dracul into our dimensions, and if they didn't, it was really weird. But anyway, that was okay, and that was one that a good group of people read.
Nice. I got to go change my battery. So Chaos, just want to interact with the chat for me for a moment. Cover for me.
I will. Let's do it.
You have the controls of PCP.
That's all. Okay, what's everyone's favorite hate speech? No, he told me not to do that. Clayman. Yeah, everyone said Clayman. Yeah, everyone. A lot of people say that Tom King had great artists, and he does. Like he's really benefited from some great artists. And for some reason, some great artists in DC are really underappreciated, like Yanin. I don't know why he's not one of the most popular artists around, but I think what Stefan Link here says that, and it's the same what Robbie just said about Snyder's run, like, and Spawn. We've already talked about this. Like long runs have lulls in them. They're not good sometimes. Sandman is one of the classics, and that has some lulls or boring parts or where some idea got tired, so it's hard for me to it's hard for me really to say some huge long run is always good. It's like I don't think it's fair to the writers to expect that they are. What else is going on here? Everyone loves Clayman. Dylan knows a lot. Shocks me because he's so young. Yeah, I think that Fable, I think that comes just from like the people around him being horror fans too, and then him going knee deep in it. What's funny is I was raised around horror too, and like we were allowed to watch it real young, like some of you guys were also born in the 80s, but I couldn't imagine letting my son do that. Like I couldn't imagine watching some super violent horror movie and my 3-year-old that doesn't care. I would have watched, I watched Jason and Freddy and all that, a little bit older than him. I wouldn't even imagine putting that on with him around, so it's a little bit strange in that way. How's your battery doing?
It's good. I got it refilled. It's also just code for I had to go take a whiz, but
yeah, that's what I figured happened.
Yeah, it happens, man. I get known for that. Bueller's like, you're the only person I know, and Jim says this too. He's like, you're the only person I know that takes a break to go piss on your live streams. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the comic burrito guys do that too. They'll be the comic burrito guys are like, I think the new Two Brothers, like the Two Brothers.
Yeah,
kids grew pretty quick. I think the comic burrito guys they came out the gate with good branding and knowing how to use cameras and having all that stuff. So
you're saying comic burritos?
Yeah, comic burrito. I think they're good. They're only like at 300 or 400 subs right now.
I'm gonna have to check them out.
Yeah, they're really nice. They just got started during the pandemic, more or less. At the start is where I found them.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're cool. And anyway, they take the pee break too during the live stream. So
nice. I mean, it's the reason why I started like adding a musical break into my Sunday night streams, and that eventually led into the show taking on a whole new thing. It's so weird to think that Rockin Robbie Live, which used to be Robbie Rants Live, started out as just me awkwardly being like, and we're live. Hey, everybody. I'm just going to wait a little bit until people get on the stream. Until people show up, I'm just going to start listing what comes out this week. And that was like one time Bullseye Bob was like, I don't have all the bells and whistles that Robbie has. But
yeah.
Like, it's just OBS. Once you learn it, you can have fun with it. It's whatever. And StreamYard's getting better, that you can do a little bit more there. So
yeah. It's gotten better. I mean, StreamYard, I think when for those a little bit newer to the community, when Google left, if you look at videos, if people look at videos from a year and a half ago, there's none of this where we're both in a box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was the person that was talking popping up, like
that annoying ass Google Hangout stuff, man. Oh my God.
But people were so disappointed when Hangouts left, when Hangouts went away, and like people found StreamYard right away, you know, and it looks so professional at first. But it's funny when everyone uses it, like it suddenly feels a little bit less professional. You know what I mean?
Does.
That's why it's important to have like all the branding and stuff like that.
You got to get rid of the duck as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Like the PCP Army literally pays for Dylan's StreamYards so we don't have that stupid duck there.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we do. Or at least the first 3 months of 2021 have been paid for by the PCP Army. We'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, when Dylan interviewed Mark London, I remember he was so excited, and he was before he had a job. He was broke then. I think he would convince his mom to get him a month of it. You know what I mean? And then JB from Discovery Bay like helped him like do the layouts and stuff like that. You know?
Yeah.
So it was big too. I think that's changed a little bit. I think that's one of the new trends, you know, from the last 6 months, and is that like your bigger channels for sure could have got writers on easy and stuff, but I feel like more writers and artists are getting on any channel. I think a lot of them have found out that even smaller channels help.
Yeah, they know what they're doing, and I mean, we get emails all day long from people wanting to be on the show or wanting me to review their book, and for the most part, unfortunately, we kind of ignore them, and sometimes we miss some things. But it's really cool to see. It's really cool because I'll get nervous. I'll be like, oh my goodness, like for instance, I'm so incredibly nervous to have Ron B come up on the show that because I respect his work so much. I was so nervous to have Alex on the show because I think that not only is Alex a fantastic writer, but I follow him on Twitter. I think he is a very brilliant and intelligent person. So I was so freaking nervous, and you find out that they're so freaking nervous to be on the show, and it's so weird, you know, to be like. And so I do these shows with Brian, and Brian will be like, "Yeah, I'm kind of nervous." So like, "Yeah, me too," but don't worry, they're nervous too. So we're all nervous. So we just got to break the ice, get into it.
I'm not nervous.
Yeah, but I was nervous before we came on here, man. To be honest, no, I wasn't. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I do want to say this though, like when you asked me to be on, I was like, yeah, that's great. We'd have like a chat. Like a lot of people will, you know, like people would do the one-on-one. It's a good time. But when you put your PCP conversations on, it's like me and a bunch of writers and artists and stuff. Like, yeah. I was like, what the hell am I doing on this list? Like, what's going on here? I thought I was going to be like punked or something. I still might be punked. No,
I think, I mean, they're PCP conversations with creators. You're a content creator. You're part of this community. And I want to spotlight creators, in particular, indie creators. And I want to spotlight other YouTubers in this community. And I do a lot of work with, you know, a lot of people like, you know, like with Jim and Bueller and Bob and whatnot. But I want to try to see what I just want to have a conversation with all of y'all and just get to know you. And this is such a brilliant community of comic book fans and lovers, and we're all different. And it's so crazy to learn about so many people. And like you're in Las Vegas, right?
I am.
I'm not trying to dox you if you don't want people to know where you are. No, but I was able to find out. So, but
I do say it all the time.
I mean, what's that like? Living in Vegas, like it just seems wild to me because it's like a desert, and then there's a town, and then there's like neighborhoods. Like, what's that like? Is that like the most surreal? Were you born there? Did you grow up there? Like,
I'm from Los Angeles originally. I mean, probably half the city is from Los Angeles.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and what's it like living? It's a lot like living in Phoenix, except there's casinos.
Okay. It just seems wild to me. You know, I live in a smaller town in Alabama, not a super small town, but
yeah, no, it is wild a little bit. I mean, Vegas fits my extreme socially liberal, you know, meets anti-tax, but I question them a little bit more than maybe my like LA and New York liberal friends kind of thing. Like it sort of fits it. I mean, then we get the crazy people like the Bundy. I don't know if you remember that story, Clive and Bundy, that had his cows on federal land. And when the feds told them to get them off, they like basically became like lunatic libertarians with all their guns and shit.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think I'm really a libertarian. Like I think I'm a liberal, that I'm just where it taxes, I'm more center. And I think Vegas really fits that, because it always was just like, a bunch of godless people, you know what I mean? We're all gamblers and you know what I mean? It wasn't a lot of religion, but it wasn't like, so, you know what I mean? At the same time, you might be, a little, it's hard to say, like a little bit more pro gun, you know what I mean? But at least like you wanted to protect your marijuana plant with your gun and your like gay neighbor, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so it sort of fits. And I think that other places in the city or in the country, sort of like lean one way too much or the other, you know what I mean? Like my concept of the South is that obviously it leans way too much to the right. Like it would be tough for me to live there coming from LA kind of thing. You know what I mean? But LA was really oppressive. Like taxes are really oppressive. Like property values were real high. I couldn't own the house I live in now in LA. It would be like, $700,000 or something. And it's like a modest house,
Yeah.
And so Vegas just fits for me, like, and I don't have a gambling problem, although I know people that do, kind of thing. But if you don't have that, you can just be a functional alcoholic degenerate, you know what I mean? And instead of raise your kids, your brand new kid and your other 3-year-old, you can just hop on the internet and talk about comics and stuff,
Yeah. So the star of the show is actually Chaos's significant other.
My wife. We're married.
Your wife.
Yeah.
Chaos's wife, Chris's wife, who was taking care of both kids, including a newborn, so that Chaos can be here tonight with us.
Yeah.
PCP Army Station
to my wife. Yeah. This is let's dedicate this stream to my, because as I'm talking about Greg Capullo on Spawn, I can hear like noises. Like I'm in the garage right now, by the way.
Yeah.
I can hear noises happening over there. And my wife's like, my mom's actually in town helping us, but I can hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
We're going to take this moment for your wife, an official station identification, PCP Army.
Oh, here we go.
Kid Cudi approved.
There we go.
Everybody station.
I sent her the link so she could watch. And when she got it, it was like, why are you sending me this? I'm not going to have any time to watch it.
Oh, shit. Meanwhile, we're like, yeah, Vegas is great.
Yeah.
Comics are cool. I like vinyl.
Our theaters and all of our movie theaters are in casinos.
Are they really? That makes sense, I guess. I mean, that's what I guess. Like, what's the town like? Is it literally just like, are there like suburbs where y'all have like, I mean, I'm surely y'all have like Walmarts and restaurants and all that stuff, but then it's like the strip. Is the strip pretty much it? Like, is that downtown Vegas? Like,
no, downtown Vegas is different. If you're talking about downtown Vegas, you're talking about old Vegas, like where all the first casinos were, the very, very old casinos.
Ooh. That's
actually where Zappos is. I used to work for that company. So owned by Amazon. If you were your age but a woman, you would know what Zappos was. But that's downtown, and then the strip, like the Bellagio, MGM, and stuff like that, that's separate. That's like, the history's a little muddled, but that's where the mafia decided to start opening casinos because it was the county. So technically, the strip is not Las Vegas. So some people know that, some people don't. Right? It's like Paradise. It's like all these little unincorporated areas, like Paradise, Nevada, and stuff like that. But it's all one city, though. Like there's no break in the city or anything like that. So I live way in the northwest, like the suburbs, and there are like local casinos, but it's not glitz and glamoury. But there's definitely a ton of, you know what I mean, a ton of like slot machines and stuff like that. So
like you can't like go outside your house to see the skyline of the strip.
Oh, I can. I might, if I get out of where the neighborhood is, like if I drive up a little bit, I can see the skyline of the strip.
Oh, okay, cool.
I
just honestly, for some reason, had this vision in my head that there was like the strip and then just a bunch of houses and some McDonald's like like just around it, then a bunch of desert and nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know why I feel that way, but I just got that.
The Vegas metropolitan area is like 2.5 million.
I've never been there. So would you say 2.5 million? What?
2.5 million people.
Yeah, that's a lot of fucking people.
Yeah. Or especially if you're from like a smaller town in Alabama, right? So.
Oh yeah, bro. I think we got like 400K in my town. I think.
Yeah. What's your city? That's still a city.
Huntsville. Yeah.
Huntsville. Yeah. Huntsville. That's still a city. You live where Nick from Two Brothers lives. You guys are in the same city.
Are you serious?
He's from. Is Huntsville, Alabama, is considered like the Austin of Alabama, right? Like it's actually like you spend a lot of time telling people that Huntsville is a little bit different than the rest of Alabama, right?
Oh, it definitely is because it's we got NASA here, the Marshall Space Flight Center. We got the Redstone Arsenal. So yeah, there's a lot of people that are
Nick from Two Brothers is in Huntsville too. So he's really cool.
I work at the comic shop in Huntsville. How do I not know this guy?
You might know him.
I don't think I know him. I've seen him. I think I saw him at one of our cons, but I was super, super busy. Because they were wearing Two Brothers shirts, and I recognized one of them. Yeah, maybe I do. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't like my shop. But no, I need to. Does he live in my town, Huntsville? Anyway, yeah, this is where the U.S. Space and Rocket Center is, and
one of them lives in Huntsville, and the other one lives in like the Atlanta suburbs. You know what I mean?
Oh wow, I didn't even know that they didn't live together.
Yeah. They're old. They're older. You know what I mean? They got wives and kids and stuff, right? So, but you'll see them together.
I didn't mean live together. It's
yeah. It's like it's never mind. But
I should have Two Brothers on the show, and then I can be like, "Where do y'all live?"
Yeah, they're great. I mean, they're another channel that's blowing up. You know what I mean? Like they worked hard on their brand. You know, like it's. Yeah,
I competed against them in Bueller's Thunderdome and won. So I'm proud of that.
Thing. Yeah,
that's all because of the PCP.
That's not a popularity contest at all, Robbie. Right?
No, it's not. I won with picking a Ghost Rider one shot by Howard Mackey, bro.
Yeah, so that answers your question. But that Ghost Rider one shot by Howard Mackey is important to us from the 90s, though.
Yes, it is. That's why I picked it.
Yeah, definitely. And that was a good book, too. That was a good book.
It was. I would like The Return of Vengeance is the one I picked. I would like to see.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It seems like Marvel doesn't know what the hell to do with Ghost Rider, and they haven't known what to do since.
Well, the pandemic ruined it. They were at least. I loved that storyline. I thought it was one of the better storylines in. Like I read Ghost Rider.
And Brisson one
point of view. The Brisson, the one that ended at the pandemic that we didn't get finished. I thought they were going down a great road. I thought they were using Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze like perfectly together. I thought they were really exploring what Donny Cates left, with Mephisto. He's in prison here sometimes, but I thought they were really exploring that really well. All the Lilith stuff. I was so excited by that Ghost Rider run. And then the pandemic happened, and it was probably a book that was, selling people to like me, like, maybe making a little profit or something like that. But when the pandemic happened, was one of the ones just cut. And that was a killer.
Jay Strick, he is in the garage.
Yeah, I am in the garage, dude. I mean, this is mine.
He's always in the garage.
Yeah. I have an office, but I just had a kid. So my mom's in town and like, that's where her bed is. And also when I normally get on streams, it's late at night and my wife has like Daredevil level hearing. So yeah, it's like you can't get in the office. I can't go in my own office. I got to go to the garage. So I'm relegated to the garage.
Just glad you're not taking a walk. I've watched a stream one time where you were literally just taking a walk in your neighborhood, I think.
Yeah. That's what I was going to tell you right now. When you were like, I imagine Vegas like this. I was like, you've literally seen my neighborhood, Robbie.
Yeah, I guess it just looks like a regular neighborhood.
I was wearing an Aesop Rock shirt. That's what you were impressed with that day.
I was. I was very impressed. I've been very impressed with you because I think, honestly, and you asked, why am I on the channel? Because I think that you have pretty near impeccable taste. You are a little harsh, I think, on things, but I think you have rather fine taste in comic books, my friend. And I feel like we like the same kind of stuff. I'm not big into metal, but I feel like you could lead me into it, right? Like I feel like we would have a great conversation in person, sharing a beer together.
What am I harsh on?
What? No, I didn't say that you're harsh.
Oh yeah.
Well, I did say that you were harsh. But what I meant was like
harsh. I am harsh or sharp.
There are books, for instance, that I would give an A that you give a B. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
you're harsh compared to me. I think I'm more forgiving because I'm like it's
too, because I rarely give anything less than a B. The worst grade I've ever given on my channel, and I think grades are stupid, and that's why I put them, by the way, I put grades on my thumbnail so that if you don't want to watch the video, you don't have to.
You just know what it is.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I don't. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll think of a better marketing way if I spend more time on my channel. The worst grade I've ever given was Giant Size X-Men #1. I gave that like a D-. I thought that was about the comic.
I gave that like an A.
So you did, but everything else though. Like if we go and look at my channel right now, you're gonna think that I give too many things B's, B pluses.
Okay. Okay.
But what we talked about earlier is important here. I literally put a grade because that's what people want, and I put it on the thumbnail because I want to get it over with. For the most part, my real goal is to talk about a comic book in some, and I don't always succeed at this, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying that I do it well, but to talk about a comic book in a certain way that you don't really know if I like it or not. You know what I mean? Like I'm talking about it from a different critical lens is generally my goal. So even when I have people on, or, you know, in a couple Discords, you know what I mean? I was like, why do we always have to boil it down to like it, didn't like it? You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about let's compare it to something, you know what I mean? And see what comes out, you know, let's compare Black Hammer to, you know, what, like to Tom Strong. Like, let's compare to those two, you know what I mean? Like they're both odes to some, you know, past kind of storytelling, except with more talented writers. You know what I mean? Like let's start to see what boils to the top kind of thing, you know? And I think that's really my goal. And grades, you know, sometimes I put the wrong grade, to be honest. Like sometimes I just lie.
Ha!
But no one's ever really caught that, really.
I've been thinking about that. When we do the movie reviews, we do the grading system, we do your digs, but we do it at the end after like an hour-long discussion on the movie, right? So, you know, and we're always trying to appreciate what the movie's trying to do. And then the your digs is just kind of like, I guess, a nod to movie criticism, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down, things like that.
Yeah.
But with comics, I don't grade them really. And I was thinking about this last night. It's like, I'm getting so tired of doing the top 10 video every week, right? I started doing it because I was like, well, maybe if I did a top 10 video, I could find another video. At the time, I was trying to find a video that would crack at least 1,000 views every week. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'll do a top 10. I'll just do my top 10 because I used to just do it on my Twitter. I would just list out my top 10, and, you know, it was always a well-performing tweet, I guess. Yeah. So I turned it into a video. And ever since then, I've just been like, as each week progresses, we're a year into it, and I'm tired of doing it. I've actually incorporated it into a live show. So I just do it live, then cut it out and release it. Right.
That's great. And, great idea.
Yeah. Right. But like, I'm even tired of doing that because I'm tired of the idea of like, why do I was thinking about this last night. I was like, because maybe I was a little drunk, but I was thinking, why do I even got to rate them? Like, I understand pick of the week. That's one thing. Right. But like, why do I have to give, like, I feel bad. Like, I actually know some of these people now. Oh yeah, brother. So like, everybody always says I have a never ending beer. They don't see all the beer cans over here. But, I just like some of these, like, I feel bad. I'm like, I'm not trying to say that Resonant was a weaker book than these other books, you know? And so like, I'm not even comfortable doing a top 10 anymore, man. With movies, I don't care, but I don't know anybody that makes movies. Well, I do, but not movies that we're talking about, you know? And maybe it's the influence of like, one of the reasons why I really wanted to I've always wanted to be in the industry, right? Like, you know, and I got in there as a retailer, and now I'm there as a YouTuber. But my ultimate goal would just be to freaking make comics, you know, like that would be something cool. But at this point, I would never like give this up because I've always wanted to be like a radio show host or something.
You'll get something funded. You'll get something funded in a day. So
I bet I could, and that's the thing. Like
when
now
you
I'm
write it,
scared to do it. What?
when you write, well, we'll talk afterwards because there's a lot of stuff I don't have time to do.
Yeah,
right?
me neither.
Well, that's true too, right?
I don't know if the PCP Army would fund a Kickstarter on a Rockin Robbie comic book.
No, you get it
if it meant that I would do like less live streams for the next 6 months. You
well,
know,
you're not drawing it; you're writing it, right?
Yeah, but that still takes some work.
No. It would take some work for sure, but
yeah, I ain't drawing shit. Maybe there's gonna be some tapeworm boy, but I ain't even got time to do that.
Yeah, are you talking about tapeworm from? Are you talking about the 9 Inch Nails tool?
No, I got this character I created called Tapeworm Boy.
Oh, I do know that. You have said that. I thought you meant because it was unfinished and never came out. So the Trent Reznor and Maynard have a project called Tapeworm.
Was that the super group they were supposed to be doing?
Yeah. And it never came out. It was unfinished. And then they decided that they grew out of the music, and the vast majority of it was never released. Some of it was released. Some ideas came out like in a perfect circle, you know what I mean? And other areas.
Yeah.
But that when you said that was because I've heard you talk about something that you wrote before, but then when you said that, I just thought of Tapeworm from Trent Reznor, and that's funny. That they're both. You should like work that in there now. I
should. He like Tapeworm Boy's a big Tool and 9 Inch Nails fan. I've always in my head I envisioned him as a Smashing Pumpkins fan because he's a little sad. He's a little.
There's a connection there.
There is definitely a connection. My ex was a fan of all 3 of those bands.
Yeah.
I watched all 3 of those bands with her. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah. The connection is the guitar player, James Eha, was a guitar player for both bands.
I saw Perfect Circle with him, and then the last time we saw him, he wasn't there, and I was really bummed out.
Yeah. It's someone else.
I just came here for him, to be honest with you. But he's reunited with Billy. Well, I've never seen him with Smashing Pumpkins. I've seen Smashing Pumpkins twice, but never with him.
Oh, so, James Eha wasn't there?
No, he wasn't. I saw Smashing Pumpkins for the first time on the Oceania tour, and then on the tour after that. So it was later, but it was still that Oceania tour. I drove to St. Louis, and I'm in Alabama. Me and my buddy Mike drove to St. Louis, like it was like a 6-7 hour drive. We watched the Smashing Pumpkins. We got some food, and then we drove back. I was so ready because at the time they didn't play the South at all. And then like a couple years later, they played on my birthday in Atlanta. So that was a really fun night.
You got to go there. How far is Atlanta?
Atlanta's like a 3-hour drive away.
3-hour drive. Okay.
Yeah. I'm northern Alabama. So Atlanta's like right there.
Yeah.
I'm very close to Nashville, Atlanta. So
that area. I bought a Smashing Pumpkins ticket like maybe 2 or 3 years ago and forgot about it. And then they played, and then like I was like, oh, didn't I buy a ticket for that?
Oh, that sucks.
I think I bought it on a Groupon, to be honest.
Yeah, you're like, sure.
I was like, yeah, and they were supposed to play like it was the last tour that they had where they're supposed to play everything from the first 3 or 4 albums or something like that. You know, so it was worth going to. But yeah, and in the 90s as a kid, I was a huge Smashing Pumpkins fan.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they got a little lazy. You know what I mean? They got a little bit too airy and stuff like that. So, but I still like the Smashing Pumpkins for sure. So
I still like them too. I went back and revisited some of the stuff I missed out on because I thought Adore was actually a brilliant album, and I still do.
It's a brilliant album.
I still do.
That's in that group of great albums. It's where like the Machine. I forget what they're called. I like them, but that's I think where they start getting a little repetitive.
Yeah.
Can I do a battery recharge real quick?
Yeah, do it.
Okay, I'll be right back.
So Mike says that trip was dope as fuck. It was.
Oh, there's Mike.
That was a fun trip. Though so here's a funny story about that trip. And as soon as he gets back, I'm gonna have to grab another beer. But a funny thing about that trip is we're driving my Chevy Cobalt, 06 Cobalt at the time, and I'm running low on gas, but we're looking for a gas station. But I look at the gas station and I'm like, you know what? That doesn't look like it's a dingy gas station. They probably don't have like a nice assortment of sodas and snacks. So we're like, we'll get the next ones. And then straight after that, there was like no gas station for like 50 miles. And we like literally ran out of gas as we pulled up to the pump when we finally got to a fucking gas station. It was crazy. I would understand exactly what you're saying, Jay Nunya, but I will say this. What's the album with Doomsday Clock and what was that? Zeitgeist? Zeitgeist is a really freaking good album. And I did not appreciate it when it first released. I think it's Zeitgeist. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, Zeitgeist is the name of that album. It's got Doomsday Clock. It's got, oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's got Tarantula. He actually wants to pronounce it in a different way. It's really weird. That's a really good album, y'all. I'm not even lying. Zeitgeist by Smashing Pumpkins. That's really underappreciated, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's another one I revisited. I like everything. It just, they're all written the same way. And so the early ones, because it was one of those things where the early ones have an impact on me. I feel like DMX is the same way, by the way, where
okay.
like completely different. But my argument is that he's actually never changed. He's just gotten like incrementally better, right? Yeah. So I think if like that fourth album came out and it was the first album, I think that would be everyone's favorite album. But my favorite album are the first two.
Oh,
right?
Hell, yeah, it's dark and hell is hot and flesh, my flesh, blood of my blood.
Exactly. Yeah, but I love. I can't remember the names of them right now because I haven't listened to DMX in a while. But the third album's where he was on TRL, right? And then the fourth album's Great Depression, also very good. And there's
then there was X was the third one, right? And then there was X
is the third one. And then Grand Champ is the fifth one. Great Depression is the fourth one. And then Grand Champ is the fifth one. But I think Smashing Pumpkins is the same way, right? They're very similar, each one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they didn't change. They didn't change that much. Where if you were 4 years younger than me, your favorite album might be a little bit different. And Smashing Pumpkins was a little bit like that, you know. And so is DMX to me. You know what I mean? Like I could see, like if Zeitgeist had the same like push from the record company that that like Melancholy did. I can see how Zeitgeist would be a person born in 1989's favorite Smashing Pumpkins album. Is what I'm saying.
And it was definitely a different time in the music industry too. You know, like they weren't pushing music like that. Like I love all that 90s. My favorite Smashing Pumpkin album it's tough. It's either Siamese Dreams or Adore. It's probably Siamese Dreams. There's more bangers to me on that one, but that was the one that I was like 14, 13 when it came out. So I
absolutely love both those albums, but I have to say Melancholy is still my favorite, even though that's like the, you know, it's almost anti-hipster, right? It's like the trendy thing to say.
It's a great album. I used to say that it should have been one album. They should have cut a bunch of it out and just had one good album of the good songs. But in hindsight, I love everything, and I love the way that the two albums play against each other. And XYU and Muzzle are still heavier. And XYU and Muzzle are still like two of my favorite SP songs. Period.
Yeah, that Scorched Earth song was great. Like that was super heavy, but not thrash. Like maybe when did that album come out? 1994, 1995. Mm-hmm. When that album came out, you know, it made me realize that you can have heavy music and not be like Metallica, Slayer, you know, not be a thrash fan necessarily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that was a real heavy song, and Smashing Pumpkins aren't necessarily that kind of band. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I don't know. I heard you were going to go get a beer, so.
Yeah, I'm about to. John says pumpkins are good with sour cream Doritos and a Heineken. He's referencing that birthday show. John was there with me. I got super intoxicated that night. Probably one of the drunkest moments of my life. I acted like a complete asshole to him in particular. And it all started with us stopping at a rest stop. And he says, "Hey, I'm going in. Do you need anything?" Like basically he's being like, "Do you need a water? You want a drink?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want sour cream and onion Doritos and a Heineken." They did have Heineken? And he got me both of them because at the time they actually did have sour cream and onions Dorito back for a limited time. Yeah, but it was all downhill from there, brother.
Did you get the Heineken though?
I did get the Heineken.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, he gave me a nice tall one.
I didn't drink. I didn't have like as like pro drug as I am and stuff, but like not using, just politically, right?
Yeah, right.
I didn't drink an open bottle in a car until I was way older. Like to me in my head, that was like, you shouldn't ever do, even if you weren't driving, you know what I mean? I remember we were driving to LA from here to go to like some conference. It was in college, but I was an older student. I didn't finish college till way later. You know what I mean? And like my friends in college were younger than me. Right? They just started popping open bottles or like pouring liquor into their their slushy and stuff. I was like, what kind of life are we living here? You know?
So I don't actually think I drank the Heineken in the car. I think I actually waited until I got to the hotel because the point was I wanted a beer. No, the point was I wanted a beer at the hotel.
Okay,
and then we went to the show. Like I wanted to pregame, right?
Yeah, so I'm imagining you on this 7-hour drive, right? But if I go on a 7-fucking-hour drive today, and
this was the 3-hour drive. This was just the Atlanta show. This wasn't the St. Louis one. Yeah.
Well, listen, if I go on a 35-minute drive today, this is how irresponsible I am. Now I'm like a father. If I go on a 30-minute drive and I'm not driving, I'm probably going to drink.
I'll smoke. I won't drink on just to drive, but I'll definitely smoke something.
See, I don't smoke. I've been pro weed legalization since I was a kid. I've maybe had THC in my body 6 times.
Oh wow, not near enough, brother. You haven't had to. You don't even know what it's like then.
Well, most of them were edibles.
Oh, you know what it's like then.
When it got legal here, completely different. Like I got too high and it made me uncomfortable. One time I just sat in the bathtub for like 3.5 hours. You know what I mean?
Mike, who's been on many concert journeys with me in many towns, says Atlanta plus Robbie plus concert equals wildness, and he is not lying. Just ask Mike one day, next time he's on the show, about the time that they lost me after the 311 show in downtown Atlanta. That was a fun night. It really, really was. And I'm a big 311 fan. They're like one of my favorites. I've probably seen them the most out of everything. So we had a question from Ace. Best concert you've ever seen? Station. For me, it would be a 311 concert because I have so much fun with that band. This is this positive energy in the crowd amongst their fans. I've seen them many times. I get really loose and wild at a 311 show, y'all. I make new friends, like plenty, and it's just a great grand old time. But they're like a band, like you were talking about, where they just kind of incrementally get better. But every album is basically the same. They just kind of keeps changing a little bit. What's your favorite concert? The best concert you've ever?
But people don't. What the important part of that statement is that maybe they get incrementally better, but people don't notice because it's so close that everyone remembers their first album that they liked.
I think that's the same with 311.
311 might be the same. As I say, I can get lost in the 311 concert because my friends would go in and I'd probably go like to the bar.
Oh yeah, you'd meet me there, bro. You'd meet me there, and I'd be like, "Come over here, man. We're about to share this big ass blunt. We're going to pass it around amongst 20 people."
So those days are over, dude. Those days are over. I don't know how mosh pits are going to work anymore. Not that I was ever really a big mosh pit guy, but metal shows are great because you can go to the bar and you can get to the front right away because all you have to do is walk through the mosh pit.
Yeah, right.
Didn't work for Modest Mouse. Like when I went to the bar at a Modest Mouse show. I'm working. I lied to my son. I told him I was.
Oh my goodness! What a terrible person you are.
Now he opened the door. He goes, "Daddy, are you working?" I was like, "I'm still working."
You make me feel bad. Like, do you need to leave?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna go grab another beer.
This show is dedicated to my wife.
Yes, 100%.
But I want to talk about my favorite show when he gets on there. But when he gets there, but yeah, like one of my, like, this is like, I'm sick of talking about fucking COVID, just like you guys are. But what I am interested in talking about is when we're done with it and like what ways things are going to change. Like how is it going to get back to normal? Like, could you imagine, like, even after vaccine and even after we get done with all these fucking people that are worried about it, we shouldn't even call it a vaccine. We should call it like an anti-COVID supplement. It's not even the disease, right? But like, could you imagine being elbow to elbow with like 300 people within like a 25-foot radius of you? Again, like that's going to be hard. And all I did, I had kids later in my life, right? All I did was go to shows. Like that was my thing. I've always lived in LA and Vegas. Well, not always. I went to high school in Central California, but I've spent most of my life in big cities, and I've just went to shows all the time. I can't imagine how like concerts are going to be like, especially rock concerts. And like for those that go to like hip hop stuff today, like the newer hip hop guys, like say like Danny Brown or like Tyler the Creator, there's actually pits in those shows. Like the hip hop fans that don't even listen to metal or rock or at all, those like shows get mosh pits, believe it or not. Like how can you, like, I don't even know how that's going to work. Like I'm just going to be an old guy now sitting in the back all the time. So anyway, let me see what I got here. Oh look, some money. Comics Explained is here. Look at that.
Comics Explained.
Comics Explained
with a super chat station.
What we really need, and I don't know if you know this guy, right? We really need is a conversation between Comics Explained, and there's another channel called Comics Misexplained. Also, a very important metalhead in
Jason.
Yeah, Jason. So you do know Jason.
But, I know. I love Jason. Jason's one of my dudes.
Oh, yeah, because Comic Core and stuff like that, right? All that. Is that where you know?
I've never been on Comic Core. I just know him from the PCP Army.
Oh, so he's just come through there.
Yeah. By the way, join the PCP Army, the official Pop Culture Philosophers Facebook group. If you're one of the few who are on Facebook, it's literally where I'm the most active on social media, but only in the PCP Army. But dude, we name dropped Sleepy Reader. He showed up. Now we name dropped Comics Explained earlier. We were talking about those bigger channels when we were coming in.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've ever noticed Comics Explained on the channel. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And I'd be down with the conversation with them. Screw Jason.
I'd be down with it. Yeah. Well, again, it's not been. Again, Comics Explained is so huge that you know what I mean. He's like
no kidding. That would be so freaking fun though to have Comics Misexplained. Yeah, that'd be fun to have Comics Misexplained and Comics Explained together. Yeah, people be so confused. We're like, I don't know if they were explained or if they weren't.
Yeah, I got to know Jason so well, even though literally that's the biggest comic book channel on YouTube, right? I've got to know Jason well enough that I have to stop myself when I'm talking about Comics Explained. You know what I mean? So look at that.
I appreciate that. What's the email?
Yeah.
What's the email? You let me know.
One of the best voices in comics right there.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Major respect. Station everybody for Comics Explained.
Nice.
That's all because of you, Chaos. That's what happens when you invite chaos in your life. I've always told people to embrace chaos.
I do. If you follow my Instagram, it's basically me taking pictures of panels where chaos is mentioned.
Yeah. Here's where the name come from.
So like I said, the name of my channel was Not Part of Your Scene, to specifically tell people that I just like the music. Like I talk about industrial, I talk about noise, I talk about metal. Not, everyone says they listen to everything. We all don't, including me. But it was really important to me that I just wear t-shirts and jeans. I'm not part of that scene. But I do buy all the music. But then when I started getting more into the comic community and started making friends here, I was like, well, I stuck with this name that no one can pronounce with no spaces or anything like that. And I just saw a lot of other people's names, and I decided I needed good alliteration. You know what I mean? And I also didn't want to be called, something to me that would be silly. And there's a lot of great channels, but people will call people like Second Street, or what I mean? They'll call you by your channel.
Yeah.
Right. I just thought it was way cooler to be called Chaos. I knew people were just going to call me Chaos. Do you know what I mean? And that to me was good. And the alliteration was very important too. Like I noticed that when I was in chats and my name was all Not Part of Your Scene, that people were squinting at it kind of thing. I was like, you know what in real life, I'm a little bit memorable, whether you hate me or you love me. Like when I talk at a bar or when I talk at work or something like that. Right. And I'm the same guy in the chat, but people couldn't read my name. You know what I mean? So I actually was able to think of my name for a while anyway. And so that's where it comes from. Also Chaos Comics, love Lady Death, love Purgatory, love Evil Ernie.
Well, that name's what immediately made me take notice of you, bro, because you were Chaos in Comics and you had the Chaos Star as your avatar. And I am a big fan of Alan Moore and Grant Morrison. Enough said. This is not a Teen Dog Shades night, so we don't need to go further into that. But I thought you were a fellow acolyte, my friend, for a while, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So if not, you should try it. You should
try what?
Chaos magic.
Oh yeah, the chaos stuff. Oh, are you like Wiccan?
No, I'm not Wiccan. What are you talking about?
Chaos. Yeah. Did you? Let's talk about Alan Moore for a minute. Did you by any? Because I know we're similar age. I think you said you were born in 81.
Yeah.
I'm born in 82, so we're very close age. Did you read your first? Did you get back to work? What did you read your first? When you first read Alan Moore, like being into witchcraft, was that in a Wizard magazine, like in the
not in a witchcraft, bro? I don't want to get this misconstrued.
No, not you. Okay. Alan Moore being into it, not you.
Okay, I got you.
You love Satan. We already know that. No witchcraft. But did you read that in the Wizard? Do you remember that article, that original article? No. When
he was talking about getting into it.
There's an original article where he's like talking about snake deities and shit. Like it was for like for someone like me, I was probably like what, 8th grade, maybe 9th grade, something like that.
I don't think I ever read that one then.
Oh yeah. I think that's where we first found out Alan Moore was a freak.
Now I've watched an interview where he talks about why he got into it. Have you ever seen that? The explanation of how he apparently got drunk on one of his birthday parties.
Yeah.
And he told all of his friends that he was going to be a chaos magician. He was going to learn under Crowley and Carroll and all that kind of stuff. And then he woke up the next day and he goes, well, I guess I'm going to try to actually do it. Right. And then he got into it. Right. So I don't know. Yeah. But no, I don't know if I remember the Wizard article. I didn't learn about his interest in that until like the 2000s.
Yeah. So I think that might've been that interview, right? So there's a Wizard article, which I have to go find, but it's funny because in that Wizard article, it like the way they write it, right? Because it's not, so it's different than like this, right? Where you can like gauge a person's like, hand movement, what they're saying and stuff. But in the Wizard article, he seemed to be like, no, bro, I'm just having an open mind in it. Like he seemed to be less sure of, like Alan Moore today is a curmudgeon and really sure and set in his ways. You know what I mean? But that article made him more like, I'm just trying to keep an open mind to see if I'm actually talking to the snake deity.
Now, I think that Moore's been misrepresented. And for a while there, I had animosity towards Moore because of the way he comes across in his interviews, right? But I really think that, like, what was his daughter did like an article or something not too long ago where she kind of explained how much it hurt him, his journey through the comic book publishers, right?
Yeah.
Like how much that hurt him and kind of just wrecked him. And I felt way more empathy for him, right? And I've watched interviews that he's done in recent years, and for the most part, I really started getting into interviews of him because I'm a big Jack Kirby fan, right? Yeah. And I think that part of my mission as having any kind of platform in the comic book community here is to make sure people understand how important Jack Kirby is. And Alan Moore, I think, has that same mission. And I've watched a lot of videos of him talking about Moore talking about Kirby and how that relates. How can I have these vibrant feelings about Kirby and creator rights and then kind of dismiss Moore's problem with DC? Do you get what I'm saying? By saying, well, it was work for hire. You signed a contract. You know what you were doing, right? Sign a better contract. But at the same time, I'm sure at the time DC was like, we'll let the book go out of print and you'll get the rights back. You know what I'm saying? With the Watchmen thing.
At the time, they didn't know. But it was an option. In finance, we would call that an option, and there would be value to it, right? That's actually very hard to value. But I have such mixed feelings on Moore because there's like I love Alan Moore, and I wish that I had a hot take that he wasn't that good. I wish I was Grant Morrison that hates him. But
no. Here's the thing: Grant loves him. Grant loves him. He just he pokes fun at Alan because. Allegedly, the whole thing started with a letter that Alan sent Grant when Grant was going to do a Warrior one-shot story in some kind of annual, right? And he sent him this thing basically being like, back the fuck off, right? Or something like that. Or because it was a Miracle Man story he was going to do in Warrior, right?
Yeah.
And it all kind of starts there, and they're both chaos magicians, self-professed magicians, and they both kind of, I think they do completely different things with the medium. You know, I think their styles are way different, but they get compared because they're British and they're weird. And
it's hard for me to say. I mean, they're different and they're not. But I mean, I've seen Grant Morrison be really critical of Alan Moore. Like I've seen him say some Alan Moore stuffs. Like,
and I've seen Alan Moore just basically say that Grant Morrison and Neil Gaiman stole their careers off of ripping him off.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Neil Gaiman, by the way, as much as I love Neil Gaiman's definitely that 311 Smashing Pumpkins. You know what I mean? Like I've read so much Neil Gaiman now where I've been able to put my thumb on his beats. But anyway, I forget what necessarily we're talking about there.
I don't know. We were wound up talking about Moore versus Grant. So
yeah. So there's you know what you did give me? There's I wish I could think of this blog because Kieran Gillen always cites it whenever it's written. There's a blog going on that is basically telling the story, and it's great read. It's a little bit dense, but they're great reads, like long form blog posts. There's a blog out there where the guy writing it, and I don't know what his connection is telling the history of like British comic writing, but through the Grant Morrison, Alan Moore, competition or issue with each other, because it started way early on, apparently.
Yeah, like the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s, you know. And man, those are great blog posts. I mean, they're so dense, I haven't read a ton of them, but Kieran Gillen always tweets them out. And it has some like the stupid name of the blog has some like obscure name, like that's hard to remember, you know what I mean? But Kieran Gillen, by the way, another one, he's not white noise, but he did actually have a little bit to do with getting them noticed. Another one of my favorite writers out there. That was my number one book. Die was my number one book last year.
See, I've only read like the first couple issues of Die. I was like, oh, this is a D&D thing? I'll just wait.
Yeah. He knew.
See, I like
Kieran Gillen. It's Kieran Gillen knowing that those were written. It's deeper. You know what I mean?
Okay. I get you. I've been planning on revisiting it. I really like Gillen's work for the most part. Wicked and the Divine, I think, is
beautiful,
fucking amazing. Like just next level. So
yeah. So now he has a painter. He has a more painterly style and each arc is so fucking different too.
Yeah, Stephanie Hans, right?
Yeah, and each I'm not sure if it's. I've always said Hans. I think I saw on Twitter it pronounced Haynes. She's German, I think. So I don't know, but like this last arc for Die was so wide. It felt like an MMO, like MMORPG, like huge across like huge parts of Die, et cetera. And then I'm told the new arc, and I feel like people arc to arc might not like them, but I just love what Kieran Gillen does on his Discord. I'm a big fan. I'm told that the next arc, his plans are, he said in the Discord, is going to be like a dungeon crawler. So it's going to be a lot more personal, a lot more claustrophobic, he said, you know what I mean? So, Kieran Gillen knew what he was doing. It wasn't just the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. It was inspired from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon where a bunch of kids go into D&D, right?
Yeah.
And so much stuff is written there, like so many like deeper seated statements about gaming, about community gaming, you know, like even light stuff about Gamergate. And, because Kieran Gillen actually, before he started writing comics, was a game critic, right? Okay. And Die has its own RPG that you can get for free on diecomic.com. So you can actually play the tabletop RPG game that he just put out for free, you know?
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So, I think Die is wonderful. I think it's super deep. And I think that, and I know I've heard you say before, you only read the first arc and thought it was okay. But I think that first arc was drawn beautifully by Stephanie Hans or Haynes or whatever, that normally we knew from cover artists, right?
Yeah.
But I think she went to next level on the second and third arcs. I think she went to the next level. I think she figured out how to like. I think the first arc is beautiful. I think what she draws is beautiful. I think it's dark. You know, all that painterly work. You know what I mean? Christian Ward, even Del Mundo, that is painterly, but has a little bit tighter lines. I think all that
more graffiti, like I think.
Yeah, I think
yes.
all of that stuff, you know, and then the Sienkiewicz influence stuff, like Blue and Green, and what's his name that's doing Philadelphia. I think all that stuff is a
Department of Truth with Martin Simmons.
Department of Truth, super Sienkiewicz influence, right? I think all of that stuff is a little bit harder to get into, you know. But if you're a seasoned comic book reader, you know, I think there's more payoff to that kind of art. And Stephanie Haynes or Hans or whatever, like, really went to the next level in her art in subsequent arcs, I think. You know what I mean? Started using light a lot better, especially.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I know it feels impersonal. Dye really does feel impersonal because that style of art. But it's something that I just say, like, just know that it's there. Like, know that it's painterly. Odyssey had that problem too, right? It felt it was dense and it felt impersonal because Christian Ward was doing the art, right? So
yeah. No, I like the art style. It was just, I'm not really a gamer, you know. If it's not,
neither am I.
If it's not 16-bit, you know, I don't care. And like RPGs, I think that's, no offense to anybody, but personally, I find it to be a big waste of time in my personal life because there's other things that I want to do. Now, if that's what you want to do, then other people think it's a waste of time to spend 8 hours a day reading fucking comics. I get that. Okay. Yeah. So like 100%, I understand. But there was always other things that I wanted to do, right? So I just immediately was like, well, this doesn't seem like it's for me. But I hear that, like, and you just said it goes deep. So I'm really excited about that. And
yeah, it is.
Said the way it has a commentary on like gamer culture and things like that, that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, it definitely does. And even working in gaming, by the way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm on your side, by the way. Like, I stopped gaming a long time ago, and I've always had interest in, you know, I always thought RPGs were cool. I never had the group to do it. I think I played Champions like in high school for a couple rounds, and it was really weird because one guy was like, you know, Nate Gray level, and I was like a Punisher Street level, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't want to call it a waste of time. It's just not where I put my time, kind of thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But you know, like, I dip into that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a chaos magician either. You know what I mean? But I'm curious to see how it changes your writing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, and then also it's Kieran Gillen. He's just a good writer. A little bit like he's a dense guy too, just like a lot of the English guys are. But he's just a good writer. He's just a good writer. You know what I mean? And as big a Kieran Gillen fan as I am, his first big two stuff I'm ever reading. I never read Loki. I never read any of that stuff. His first big two stuff I'm reading is Externals. Also with like a little painterly turn. I've never read any of his big two stuff. So.
See, I don't like his big two stuff. He has the Thor run that a lot of people like, and his Loki stuff, obviously, but I wasn't a big fan of that. I like his Young Avengers run he did with McKelvey because he has a nice creator relationship with McKelvey, right?
Yeah, that's probably his most famous big two stuff is the Young Avengers, right?
Yeah, and then he did X-Men, and I just at that time I just wasn't an X-Men guy. He did X-Men during I think it was the Fraction era. So
yeah, you know what I found? You know what I find about X-Men? Because listen, I think X-Men's a good topic too. I don't know how much longer you want to be on, but
I told you 2 hours, bro. But I've done a 6-hour stream. I feel invincible.
Oh yeah. Like, listen,
you're the one with the
no.
Listen, with the kids.
I was in as much trouble as I can be an hour and a half ago.
I love how you just keep looking over there, like what's going on?
Yeah,
what's going on?
In this car and drive away.
Is he waiting to see if the blood? By the way, real quick before we move on, I just want to say this: I did try to get into RPG. We did like the Turtles one that they did back in the late 80s, early 90s or whatever, and I created a badass mutant Lynx, right? And his name was Heisenper. Because I thought that, like, since the Turtles were named after Renaissance painters, I wanted to name my character after a scientist. Okay. So it was Heisenper, and I modeled my character after Blade. And Brooks, part of the PCP crew, Excitable We Are, was this badass bird ninja, and everybody else who they were well versed in RPGs. We did this for like 4 to 5 weeks every Saturday night or whatever. It took hours. Yeah. We did it after I got off work at the shop. We closed the shop down. Then everybody would come in and we would play by ourselves. You know, part of the benefits of working at a shop in a game store. But we wasted so many hours of people just upgrading their armor and their vehicle, or baking salmon cakes. I'm not even kidding. One guy wasted hours just making salmon cakes, and me and Brooks were always like trying to like get into action. And it just like, to me, I was like, how long until we act like, maybe I just have the wrong group.
Yeah.
Maybe if we get something, all you want to do is just tear ass through a thing. Let's do it.
Yeah. And maybe the wrong RPG too. I've never actually even heard of that RPG.
Yeah, it was called Mutant Animals or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was cool. It was all based in the world of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And we set it in our town, and we had the map of the town. What?
Yeah. It sounds awesome. I tried to do a vampire. That when you said map of the town, I tried to do a vampire one of Vampire the Masquerade. Great book by Tim Seeley, by the way. Just because it's licensed doesn't mean it's not good. But I tried to do a Vampire the Masquerade one of, at the time we lived in Bell Gardens. That's right. Or maybe it was like Huntington Park or Bell. I can't remember where I lived, but I tried to do Vampire the Masquerade. And like, that was the thing that appealed to me, is that we can do something in your town. Like, that's a big deal, right? Whether you're a vampire or like D&D never interested me because it was in a fantasy world. Yeah. What interested me was like the Ninja Turtles one. If I heard about it, would have, right? But like that we could walk up and like destroy the liquor store that I go to every day. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, RPGs, they just take a long time. It's got to be your thing. You know what I mean? And you got to have that group that does it. Yeah. You have the right group that like you all have the same type of game you want to play. You know, I don't want to sit there and level up for weeks and weeks and weeks and then beat the bosses. I want to, if this is supposed to be about imagination, I want to utilize my imagination and like, let's tell a story and let the dice decide what actually happens. Like that aspect sounds exciting to me, you know, but. Yeah, if people are making salmon cakes and getting armor, that's trouble. It's really boring. Yeah. I mean, I remember one time too, like the guy who was our turtle master or whatever, he was well versed in D&D, and I could tell that I would annoy him because he would be like, all right, so these ninjas show up. What do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to backflip towards them and then cut off his head. And they were like, it doesn't really work that way. I was like, well, what do you mean? You say I have two actions, so flipping towards him and then cutting off his head. He goes, okay, but you got to roll a 20. And I literally rolled a 20, and he rolled his eyes. He rolled his eyes, and he goes, Heisenberg flips backwards and cuts off the dude's head. And I was like, yes. You rolled a 20. I did. It was like, it just happened. But it was like, it was on one roll? It was on one roll. He's like, you have to roll a 20. And I did it. And you can tell it just bothered him so much. It was great. You should see what he should have done. And I'm not an RPG guy. So maybe someone in the tabletop in the community in the chat can tell us. But like, that's a hard thing to do. And you don't want to just lop off someone's head. Right? Yeah. Yeah. You should have had 3 rolls. You should have whether you did the backflip. You should have whether you did an effective slice and whether it actually cut off his head. There's a luck thing to it. Yeah, I guess so, right? But like, I don't know, because I had like a plus whatever to something, but I don't know how it works. But I mean, I was like, can I do that? And he was like, the only way you can do that is if you roll a 20 right now. I think he just rolled that off the top of his head because he didn't think it was going to happen. Yeah. Because statistically, it's not. Yeah. In our game, we had this great monster. I feel bad for the game master or something, because he had a way that we had to beat him, and we ended up beating this fucking monster on a technicality because the monster could phase, and I can't remember what we did. Like when Kitty Pryde phases, like no one cares that she doesn't just fall into the center of the earth, right? Yeah. Whatever the reason, I'm sure they've given reasoning over the last 40 years of it, but I don't know it, right? She doesn't phase the bottom of her feet, obviously. Something like that, right? That's no prize. Yeah. But sometimes she completely there's other times though where like a truck hits her, I don't know. Anyway. I know, it's weird. Yeah. But like we beat on some I can't remember what it was because it's like 20 years ago now or whatever, right? But like we beat him on a technicality on something about phasing, and then the monster just got stuck in the center of the earth kind of thing. And later on, he told us like what the trick was. It was a really creative way for us to beat him. Like, what the most, did you play Metal Gear Solid, or was that you didn't do PlayStation? Nah. Okay. I think the only PlayStation game I really invested in was Need for Speed. Hot Pursuit. So he had this really creative way of us beating this monster that we beat on a technicality, and it reminded me of Metal Gear. So like one of the best bosses ever, and this is about the time I finished playing games, was Psycho Manus. And you would beat Psycho Manus so he could read your fucking mind. Like you would try to do something, you read your fucking mind. And you'd get all these little hints, right? And if you were smart enough, you got it right away, and eventually they just hand it to you. The secret was to pick up the player 2 controller. And when you picked up the player 2 controller, he couldn't read your mind anymore, right? Lost in Comics just interviewed Ron B. Great interview, by the way, maybe a week or two ago. So,
I'll definitely be checking it out so I can be like acting like I know background information about Ron V.
There you go.
Be sure to give him a shout out.
Yeah,
Station
sure.
Lost in Comics. I love your channel.
Yeah, Lost in Comics.
Y'all are great.
Lost in Comics, another huge grower. So they're a group that takes it seriously. You know, I'm sorry, guys. I just want to be your friend.
We'll have to get you on the show.
Oh yeah, Lost in both of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna write them down. Lost in Comics.
They're really good and
commit to the bit. Anyway, moving on. That's a PCP Army thing. Don't worry about it.
That one I don't know. I know
there's a fun thing about RPGing, obviously, because I still tell the story about when I flip backwards and cut off the dude's head on a 20 roll. So there's I shouldn't say it's a waste of time. It's not, but you got to find the right group. Like you got to find people that want to do, like if you are not into it and you don't want to spend a year or two on one story, you just want to kind of like, for instance, with RPGs on video games. Yeah, I think Paper Mario is awesome. I love the Mario RPG.
Yeah.
But I've never finished them because to me they're kind of boring. I've never been a Zelda guy. I am a platformer. I love Mario. I love Punch-Out. You know, I love fighting games and I love racing games. So I'm Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Cruising Exotica. I had the movie theater record on it for like 10 years until the theater just literally got torn down this week. So sad. But the commit to the bit thing comes back to the Bueller eating chalupas.
Oh,
and I told him that he had to commit to the bit. And if he wants to eat chalupas, he can't speed forward through it. He's got to literally just have 5 minutes at the end of his videos of him eating chalupas. And then I invited him on my Wednesday night show, Talking Comics Live. And we talked comics and ate a chalupa. And we got Jay Strick on next week, and he wants to eat chalupas too. So we think we're going to eventually do a parody chalupa and comic show, parodying his coffee and comic show.
That's a good one. But 3 chalupas in 5 minutes is fast.
He did it.
Yeah.
He says he thinks he can do 7, man. I did a Mexican pizza competition one time. Who can eat 5 Mexican pizzas in the fastest amount of time? Bro, I ate 3 and I felt fucking sick. And then one of our dudes ate it in like 2 minutes. He ate 5 Mexican pizzas, 2 minutes. And other people finished, but later, with a longer time. But dudes, I ate 3 Mexican pizzas and I was like, I'm about to harf. I cannot believe this.
We had I try to get people to bet. I have 2 bets that no one takes me up on. And one of them is a street taco bet that I can eat 20 of them.
Okay.
No one took me up on that. And that's what that reminded me of. Like we have a place here called Tacos and Beer, and they're at least at the time.
That sounds like my kind of place, by the
way.
It
is. It's a little bougie. Like it's a little bit too bougie, to be honest. Like, but
we got
a lot
some places like that here.
Great craft beer, like a lot of great craft beer. You know what I mean? But then like your street taco is like a little bit too expensive.
Yeah, we got a place here that called Hops and Guac.
Yeah, it sounds the same, right? But like they do have a happy hour where those tacos are like affordable. You know what I mean? And I bet like so long as I didn't drink, I can eat 20 of them. But no one has ever taken me up. The other one is I could pass the CPA exam, but that has nothing to do with this. But no one takes me up on bets. But a lot of it though is that like people know that I don't take bets I can't win. You know what I mean? Like there's a long history of me like winning bets and then no one ever betting me again. So we'll see.
I had a buddy one time. We asked him if he could do the Cool Hand Luke challenge. We were watching Cool Hand Luke. He was like, I think I could eat 50 boiled eggs in an hour if they were deviled. And I was like, you realize that's 100 deviled eggs? And he goes, yeah, I could do that. I was like, that's 100 deviled eggs. So we had it all set up. We like made a big thing at the shop, at the comic shop. We were like, on this day, Kevin's going to come in and try to eat 100 deviled eggs. And then he started like, somebody told him, he's like, dude, the amount of cholesterol in those could probably kill you on the spot. And so then he freaked out and he wouldn't do it. But I was like, you ain't going to die on the spot. You'll throw up way before that would happen.
Yeah. You're not gonna die from under it.
I was like, you're also not going to eat 100 deviled eggs, bro. Like, it's just not going to happen.
So I didn't grow up religious. I didn't have any of that, but I did have like this high school thing where I was going to youth group, probably to chase a girl. And for some reason, one of their competitions there was to drink a gallon of like the cheap, like the cheap like Latin Mexican juice.
Okay.
Or how much of a gallon you can drink. And I won because I drank nearly the whole gallon, but I couldn't hang out afterwards because it killed it. Like, yeah, you killed it. You're basically shitting water and peeing. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah. I have hosted like
dangerous.
I've hosted 6 gallon of milk challenges in my life. I've never tried it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an idiot, but I've hosted 6 of them. And I've only seen one person do it. And that was Mike the voice, Mike06. Y'all know him, part of the crew here. And he didn't make it long after he completed the gallon. But most people immediately just like fire hose vomit a bunch of milk out. Like, you can't drink a gallon of milk, y'all.
Yeah, your body doesn't have it. It starts expelling it. It figures out a way to expel it. Like, there's no room for it. It doesn't exactly do anything with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like your stomach doesn't hold a gallon at once. You know what I mean? Maybe over time.
Dude, one time Jelani, who's one of our crew members here, Jelani thought he could do it. Like, after watching 5 people try one Halloween, we used to do it every Halloween at the comic shop.
Yeah.
And after watching 5 people try and fail, like miserably, he thought he could do it. His secret ingredient was Oreos. I was like, bro, you think adding Oreos is going to help? Dude, bro.
That's crazy.
Instead of just having like this, like,
it's physics, guys.
Instead of just having all this milk shoot out, like, just like, I mean, it comes out like a fire hose, bro. Right? Yeah. Because he had all that Oreo stuff that was absorbing it, he puked just a little bit, right? And then he came to the shop the next day and his eye was bloodshot. And he goes, fuck you. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, I was up all night shitting. And now my eye is bloodshot. I shit my eye. Like, I popped a fucking blood vessel in my eye, shitting so much. And I was like, that's on you, dude. You were the one that thought adding extra matter was going to make you be able to absorb the fucking milk better.
Doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah. You can't do that now. You'd probably be sued now if you did like a milk drinking competition. So.
Yeah, we don't do them anymore. The last time we did it was a few years ago, and it was spur of the moment. And we had 2 people try, and Mike was one of them. And he drank it. And then he still denies that he threw up, but he was in that bathroom on the floor for like an hour. By the way, we got Small Town Collectibles in the house. Station, everybody, for Small Town Collectibles. If you haven't checked them out already, it's a great YouTube channel here about comic books. He does a show called 10 Questions. He's had Jim Mint on there. He's had Bueller on there, and he's had Immortal Biggie Shaq on there. That debuted today. I'm looking forward to checking that one out. And he's had this other YouTuber on there. What's his name? Rockin Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers. So
who the fuck is that?
Definitely check out that show because it's not even hit 100 views yet, y'all. PCP Army, I'm sorely disappointed. Go check out Small Town Collectibles. Give him a subscribe. Check out his content. Watch our video and give a station. Anyway, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, PCP Army, because I like that the PCP Army are not followers. They're all leaders.
Go do it. Don't be a dick.
Chamorro, I don't know why you have to keep mentioning Skeleton Key. You know this is what's going to happen tomorrow. Manuel was on the channel a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Last week we had David Andre, and Manuel's all great. He keeps mentioning Skeleton Key because I like goofed him out one day because he mentioned it as like a pretty good movie, and I was like, you're fucking wrong. And one day there's gonna be a Skeleton Key PCP movie night, and you're gonna have to be on there, bruh. Just so you know, and you're gonna have to tell us why you like it so much. So there you go.
Skeleton Key is a great band.
Is that a metal band or is it a
no?
Is it a 90s alternative band?
I think let's say like bass 90s alternative, a little bit experimental, but you made me forget about them. And I had to look them up real quick because they you know who Mike Patton is from Faith No More, Mr. Bungle?
Yeah.
So they're on his record label, if I remember correctly. But I thought they were named after Skeleton Key, but that Skeleton Key movie is from 2005.
Yeah, that's way later. With Kate Hudson or whatever.
Yeah, I was like, are they named after Skeleton Key? But Anyway, that's what I thought. That's what I thought he was talking about at first. Like, oh, hey, a Mike Patton fan.
No, he's talking about that shitty movie, man.
Is it a shitty movie?
Nah, man, I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen it. It came out during that time where there were a bunch of like around the edge of the millennium, just before and after, there were a bunch of like movies that were like trying to like rip off on Sixth Sense and End of Days and whatnot. Is that the album?
Yeah. So when you bought it, like all those are holes in the CD. That was a great album. I haven't listened to that in years. Thank you, Chamorro, for reminding me of this. I've listened to so much music, and especially now I listen to like so much new music. I forget the stuff I liked like in 2014, and in this case, 1997. But cool. That was cool.
That was cool. This is why we do this show.
Yeah.
Chaos.
He was a great interview. Actually, I think me and him are the guy, because he was the other interview that was like just a channel, right? Wait, great camera, great lighting, by the way.
I know. I'm so jealous. I think he's in Minnesota, and I want to get him to come down here and because I told him, I was like, dude, in my head, I look like your stuff. So like, I'm definitely wrong. So I need you to help. Just what I picked up some of these lights that Jim Minton has, and I put them behind his bookcase. And all of a sudden I think I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff, bro. I don't know how camera settings work. I don't care to learn. I got plenty of people that know how to do it, but most of my video work gets done on my own. And I just go, bro. I just want to be the talent. I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to be the cinematographer.
That's always my.
I need to be like Comic Tom and have a whole damn team.
Does he have a team? He doesn't have a team.
I've heard he's got a team.
I mean, he might now. He's like at the 30,000 subs.
Yeah, he's up there, man.
Yeah, it's hard.
There's some of these people that are getting up there. It's crazy.
My brother, my brother is like, he has the soft lights now. He has the green screen and stuff, and he knows that I'm on YouTube all the time, and so we'll do something together, but it won't be comic based. I don't think we'll have to figure something out, something different. But like, it's almost like what you just said. Like, I want to be the guy. So you're good because you can set the time aside and you do it, and you're consistent, right? So I want to be that guy. I'm just not ever consistent. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm just like sometimes you get busy or whatever, you know? So it has to be just a hobby for me. But, you know, I think though I have my brother, and if he's the guy that's going to do that, I don't have to worry about it. Like, I just have to write the content, you know? And I may go back to music for that and like write out the mini documentary or something like that. And then like have him do all the editing and stuff like that. So that'd be a lot more fun for me. You know what I mean? Cause I get I hate the editing part. I try. I bought the Adobe suite. I mean, Adobe made a lot of money for me, and all I did was give my password to my brother, and you know what I mean. Some of it's just so damn tedious, you know.
Yeah, I don't like that part. I don't like that at all. Like, I've never been an editor. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. That's why my videos are literally me standing in front of the camera and ranting. That's why it was originally called Robbie Rants, because I was like, I'm just going to stand in front of the camera and talk and let it go. Because, you know, we started as a podcast. And so I was like, the podcast is just talking. And I used to edit the podcast. And I even got tired of doing that. It just takes up too much time.
It does.
I'd rather spend the 3 hours having a conversation with Chaos and Comics. You know what I'm saying? So I can't stand it. So, and even now we do the podcast live. We don't air it live. And we haven't done the podcast in almost a year at this point. Yeah. We're still doing our socially distant. That's what led us to doing more live streams, actually. Which I've actually fell in love with this format. It doesn't seem like YouTube pushes it as much as the other stuff, but I love the actual interaction with the community, you know, out there in the chat, and then having guests on the channel and whatnot. So
yeah, YouTube doesn't, but I think that it solidifies the people that look for you, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, whenever a UFC pay-per-view doesn't have like, you know, the top 3 or 4 big fighters on it, and then you see the pay-per-view numbers, you go, okay, that's not going to be the biggest pay-per-view, but then you get an idea, you start getting an idea who the solid people are. So something like this, you know what I mean? You got 40 people in the chat, and I know you get some like bigger numbers, right? But something like this, you know, that isn't a big writer, it's just us talking. You know what I mean? gives you an idea of like the dedicated following that your channel has.
Oh yeah, this is the true PCP army right here, y'all.
Exactly.
And we got to give a big station to Jason. Comics Misexplained. We mentioned somebody in true chaos form. We have mentioned somebody. We have made 3 people manifest tonight. Damien, Comics Explained, and then Comics Misexplained, because when Comics Explained showed up, Chaos said, we got to get a show with Comics Misexplained and Comics Explained together.
And Robbie be the referee.
Yeah, and I think we can get that going, because he was like, just email me. Then I was like, what's your email? And then he just goes, yeah, don't forget to email me. I'm like, is your email public knowledge? Is it comicsexplained@gmail.com? It probably is.
It probably is. He also has a Discord that's very busy, so you could there's probably information there.
That's funny. You keep mentioning Discord, and I know what it is because I joined Liana Kangas's Patreon page for a while there, because I really like her as an artist and a creator and as a person. And she was like, yeah, I got a Discord that you become a part of. And I was like, what the fuck is a Discord? I'm like, I'll text you. I know how to tweet now, but that's about it.
Excuse me, your channel's big enough that you should probably start a Discord.
People have said we should have a PCP Discord, and I have basically said, if anybody wants to run a PCP Discord, I'll do it, but I can't guarantee I'll be on there, because
you'll start being
like another app I got to put on my phone, right? Dude, I'm so anti-app. You don't even know.
Yeah, well, you would delete a different one to have Discord.
I am Johnny Lawrence and Cobra Kai. Bruh, I am like still just sitting here watching Iron Eagle and Big Trouble in Little China, being like, what the fuck is a Discord? What's a fucking Tinder?
What's a Tinder?
Yeah, well, I learned the hard way what a Tinder was.
Yeah, they're very well. I learned the hard way.
I've been recently single in the last 6 months, so it was a weird thing to navigate in the pandemic. Trust me.
Yeah, I've actually given some thought to that and felt sorry for you singular people.
No shit.
And it made me think, and you know what it made me think? It made me think, oh yeah, like a lot of us, like it's a lot easier. It's like, you know, like it seems like a lot of comic book writers are like, stay at home, which right? But like your job is to stay at home, motherfucker. You know what I mean? And I was thinking the other day, like, oh, I'm married. This would have been a really shitty year. Like it'd have been a tough year, or it would have been a really easy year, because you know that people that are out there are ready for that. But I don't know. I mean, in Vegas feels like everyone's ready for it, but it might be different than Huntsville, Alabama. I don't know.
I think there are plenty of people ready for it, but I'm not ready to go out there and find them, because
so you're not. Yeah.
Like case numbers have been down over the last few weeks, except for in a few states, including Alabama. And I know the people in my area, and I just don't. I mean, I'm at work all day, and I go to the grocery store, and that's what it's been like for the last bit. There have been a few nights where we've had a movie night or a game night or something like that. And when we say game night, we mean like Nintendo. We don't mean
no RPGs.
Though there was a game night recently in which Brooks managed to convince me to play Magic with him again after like a probably 8-year absence from it. And I had fun with him because I also had the Lakers game on. So
yeah. Are you a Lakers fan?
I am a Lakers fan.
I'm from LA. You don't hate the Lakers.
I'm a Lakers fan, a Cowboys fan, and a Yankees fan, bro.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. You fucking throw up.
It's okay. I'm used to it, brother.
Yeah.
What do you like? What sports do you? I know you're a little bit of a sports fan. What sports do you like, and what are your teams?
I'm a big sports fan. I've actually not very intendedly, but we actually have. Oh, that's where Chaos and Comics come from. Because for like 10 years, I've had a podcast called like Chaotic Sports, but it's, last 2 or 3 years we've been very sparse. Although we will start talking about MMA a lot pretty soon. In fact, I was supposed to on Wednesday, but I fell asleep because I have a new kid, right? No, I'm a big sports fan. Like the comics is probably what I most like interact on the internet, but I'm definitely a bigger sports fan and like music nerd than I am a comics nerd, for sure. So whatever people think about me, like I'm a heavy reader. I'm definitely one of the heavier readers in the community because like I just enjoy it. I'm a little bit disappointed because it's like cut into my prose reading.
It does, bro. It really, really does.
It does. And I know
it's
you have
taken me
all
5 years to get through the Dark Tower series, man.
Yeah, it's a killer, right? And yeah, but I'm a huge sports fan. There's not a sport I don't like, in fact. And when I lived in Europe, all that made me was a bigger soccer fan, and it made me wish I can follow rugby. And I got Australian friends, and so Australian rules football is pretty cool. Yeah. So, the only sports I really don't like, and this is going to be, maybe crazy to you, but definitely crazy from, someone with a more Southern perspective, are college sports. I just hate college sports. So
I can dig that.
Yeah. And
it's not as competitive. Like, dude, I get in arguments all the time down here because college football is it down here, and because we're in Bama country, But when I tell people, I was like, the level of play is so much more exciting in the NFL compared to the NCAA. They look at me like, but they play for the heart of it.
I hate it.
And I'm like, no, they don't. Dude, they're getting paid, bro. They're getting paid in women, or they're getting paid in sex. They're getting paid in prestige and fame, and they're getting handouts from the alumni, bruh. Like, come on.
Yeah, and they're also paying for future wealth.
Yes.
By the way, a lot of them are like, I need to be good to have a chance to make it to the NFL or the NBA. So, like, that's the worst. To me, that's the worst argument, is the heart. You know what I mean? And I understand liking college sports. You know what I mean? What bothers me is that those people should actually be making actual money.
I love college football, for instance. I really, really do. But the NFL is way more exciting, a better game. I just wish they had marching bands. And then I'd probably exclusively watch the NFL.
That'd be fun. I'm going to go urinate real quick.
Do it.
Stop. Yeah, I'll be right back.
Just got to change out the battery.
Change out the battery. Here's a beer.
Stop being an old man, Robbie. Discord is super useful. Okay, I'm telling you, I just need somebody to do it. Travis says, Lakers and Yankees all the way, and the Red Wings. I don't have a hockey team. I want to get into hockey. I really, really, really want to. But I don't have a team, and I feel like I should get the Nashville Predators because I don't really have a local team. My favorite NL team is obviously the Braves. The Braves are a thing, but the Braves have been historically in my life very disappointing. So I don't have too much attachment to them. Small Town, what's up? Says, I love college sports, but you guys are dead on. Yeah, I love college sports too. Like, I love college football, and I really like college basketball as well. But the level of play is so different. And one of the great things about college sports is to see the cream rise, is to see the talent rise above the rest. But you can, like, that's why I love that college football is on Saturday. Like, it's so spot on. With basketball, it's like it's all on the same night. But with college football versus NFL, it's so great because it's pretty much, for the most part, I know they're stragglers, but for the most part, it's you watch college on Saturday, and then on Sunday, you're like, oh my goodness, and it makes every hit and every missile throw and every super crazy dynamic catch that much more just phenomenal, that much more meaningful, that much more impactful. So I do love college sports, but the level of play just sets you up for the professionals. I love NCAA basketball, and it's crazy to see. But when you saw Zion, for instance, or Jimmy, when you saw, AD in Kentucky, you're seeing people that are so much better than everybody else playing around them or with them or against them. But then when you watch it the next day on a professional level, it just takes it up so many notches.
Well, I mean, it's AD against like a guy that's going to be an air conditioner repairman.
Yeah, no, exactly. And everybody, it's such a small percentage that make it to those pro leagues. And that's even the lowest paid, lowest talented NFL football player is like the best of the best probably in his college, So. Yeah.
Pro sports is as rigged as pro wrestling.
I hear that a lot. I don't think so. If pro sports were very rigged, the Cowboys would have won a Super Bowl by now.
That's true too. And there's too many guys. Like, I've been hearing this a lot. I don't know how old Mike Psyche is there, but I remember people saying that about basketball. And that's not to say that there weren't like referee issues here and there. You know what I mean? But it's like, if stuff was really rigged, like guys like David Robinson in the NBA would have like called stuff out. Like there are kinds of person, they're kinds of people,
Yeah.
and maybe they're more rare, but all you need is one, that would have called it out a long time ago. Like you're not going to get David Robinson and Hakeem Olajuwon to like go in and agree to like throw games or something like that. You know what I mean? So
you hit the nail on the head, because those are men that, especially David Robinson, men of character in the NBA. It like comes across. I've never really necessarily been a Spurs fan, but I was a huge David Robinson fan growing up. Of course, I grew up Christian. I've since done other things, but
Chaos Magic.
I don't officially claim that yet. But anyway, I was just trying to say, I thought that you did, because of your, you have you have the Chaos Star, not me, bruh. I'm just saying.
The Chaos Star is from Warhammer, another kind of game.
Bro, it's before that, man. Warhammer stole it from Chaos Magic. What are you talking?
Did they really? Because
I don't know. Where did it originate? I don't know who came up with this. So Chaos Magic basically is just an idea. It's not like a collective thing. It's kind of like a, I don't know. Like, you can think of any, take the word magic out of it and just think of religion, right, and ritual, right? And you got so much of it that's so pretentious, and they got all these rules and all these things you have to do, and
that's Wiccans too.
Yeah, and Chaos Magic is trying to get to the root of it. What actually makes it work? No, it's all about concentration. It's all about focus of the will. It's all about
when I get to
visualization.
When I get to 1,000 subs, which I'm in no hurry to get to, when I get to 1,000 subs, I will change my name to Law and Order Comics.
Please don't.
I will switch. We'll go to Chaos. We'll go from when I get to 1,000 subs, I will change my personality.
Please don't, because I bet like half of your subscribers are Grant Morrison or Alan Moore fans that are like, why does he talk about magic?
Just fine. I feel like people more connect me to like Polito.
Yeah, that's another thing I was thinking. I was like, because they use the star too, right?
Yeah, I like them both equally, by the way. You know what I mean? And I know one is, I know like the Alan Moore, Grant, I know that's better writing. You know what I mean? But
well, here's the thing. I've never read Chaos. I actually said on the stream the other night, I had never read a Lady Death book. And then I corrected myself and I was like, I'm wrong. I read the cross-gen stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I read all the cross-gen stuff. So is it worth checking out? Should I check out the Origins trades? Like,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think if you're a horror fan, I think in the same spirit that you watch Dylan's like deeper movies that you would have skipped before, right? And if you found some enjoyment in that, and then at the same time you knew why you skipped it, right? Because they end up making a big world, And I mean, some of it is like, it's like if Metallica made a comic, you know what I mean? And in those 90s, they did like Undertaker comics, and you know what I mean? But like, it's the world got really big and sort of cool, and horror / fantasy based, especially the Evil Ernie side, where he was just like doing genocide basically on Earth. So I like him. I think they're fun. Even today, the stuff that he does, he does through Boundless, or through he does actually do some stuff through Boundless. It's not porn, but I know Boundless is mostly porn comics. But they does through Coffin Comics. The problem is that it gets bogged down a lot, like a lot of Dynamite stuff, with like the 25 like variant covers, which is
they've always done that, right? Remember they used to do the leather covers,
all
that kind of stuff.
You know what I mean? Because like a lot of people, like that's what people buy it for. A lot of people, and to be honest, I got into Lady Death, and I love Witchblade and Darkness too, by the way. I got into Lady Death because I got my stepmom and my stepsisters into comics, and what they read in the mid 90s, and I couldn't afford it all. So I read their comics. What they got into, believe it or not, was all the like super sexualized women. They went to the women comics, but the super sexualized one. So my stepmom was reading Lady Death. My dad was reading, and they were just trying to like, you know what I mean? My parents had just gotten divorced and I was being a dick. You know what I mean? They were trying to like align with me, kind of thing. But what ended up happening is I got to read their comics that they collected and whatever, right? And then one of my stepsisters was reading Witchblade and the other one was reading She. You know what I mean? So like I actually like read those bad girl comics that were marketed in a certain way, right? And by all means should be seen that way. but there actually were stories in it. Like those stories were better than anything in the early 90s that Liefeld did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they were better than all the Prophet stories I was buying. When I look back on it, where Prophet was just like stabbing Bloodstrike in the eye and shit. You know what I mean? They were still better, you know, they were just marketed with like big tits and stuff, you know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's easy to dismiss books like that. Like all of the entire line of Xenoscope, for instance, it's easy to dismiss every comic book from there. But I've had many people, especially lately, being like, you should check it out. I got to fill up the battery. I'll be right back.
There we go. There's a Xenoscope book that came out. Xenoscope's interesting because I think I'm like defending all the shitty pulp and bad girl stuff from the 90s. And that's what Xenoscope is today, right? And I got to admit that there's a Xenoscope book, and I can't remember what it was. It was before I knew it was Xenoscope. And it sounded so interesting. Something about the end of the world or something. And I read it. I was like, oh, like on the pre-orders, I didn't realize that I was at Z. And I read the description, and I go, oh, I'm getting that. And then when I saw it was Xenoscope, I didn't get it. I was like, that's that Alice in Wonderland bullshit or whatever, you know? So even when I'm like trying to explain to people the way I like that pulp from the 90s, you know, I, at the same time, a little bit hypocritical because the equivalent to that is probably Xenoscope. And who knows if those are good stories? They're just tits forward, right? They shouldn't be tits forward. You know, and then I avoid it now. I avoid it now as a 39-year-old person, you know, or what am I? I'm 38. So, yeah, so it's interesting. Anyway, let's see what's going on here. Fable put out on Instagram. He put out for me, and then I was able to like share his Instagram story. So he's one of the cool guys in the community. He could never get into those evil. You can never get into them because they sold out. And you know what? Even if you did buy them, number one, they were like $1 more expensive, right? So they're $1 more expensive, at least at that time. And then number two, like, even if you did read them, I don't know that they were good. Like, even today, when I read them, I just it feels like a good like metal album or hip hop album that I know that I just happen to like, you know what I mean? Like a DMX album, you know what I mean? Or you know, it's not like next level shit. I realize it's not next level shit. It's not Kendrick, you know what I mean? It's not like a Tupac album or something like that. So I think that's where I see like a lot of like the Chaos comic stuff, you know, but they did sell out. And then especially in the last, like after the 2000s, it's all variant cover, you know, pushed, you know what I mean? Kirby's in here, man. Stefan Link's been in here all day. I've earned a subscriber. Thank you very much. Taki, one of the cool Priest Writes for Dynamite, man. Taki, you know, me and Taki 616, you know, we hop on each other's channels as much as possible. And
Taki has a channel. I didn't ever see. Sometimes I don't even think that some of these people have channels.
Yeah. I
gotta check it out.
Taki's very, you know, punk rock as far as like the way he puts out videos and stuff. But
bruh,
when I watch like, you know, it means I've interacted with you, you know what I mean? And then your channel pops up, and then like I know that if there's a comic I want to talk about with you, kind of thing, right? And Taki's like that. I think like he probably records on his phone and stuff, but good insight from Taki 616. And so he says Priest Writes for Dynamite. I was just gonna say, like Christopher Priest Dynamite stuff, the stuff I've been able to dip into, I come in and out, has not impressed me at all. I tried to read Sacred 7 or Sacred 7? Sacred 6. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I was buying it, you know, good Perillo covers kind of thing.
I tried to get into his Vampirilla too, and I really like his Quantum and Woody and his Black Panther. I love his work there.
Yeah, well, Black Panther is. I think a lot of people think that Black Panther is all based on Ta-Nehisi Coates, but it's really based on his stuff.
Yeah, like he's the one that created the Dora Milaje, man.
Exactly, you know what I mean. But yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough he's actually been really. I feel like he's really fallen off, you know. But it's hard for me to say that because, like, you've definitely read more than me. I've maybe read 10 or 15 Christopher Priest Dynamite comics, so.
I think you've read more than me then, as far as Dynamite goes. It's an easy one to dismiss because it's TNA, right? You can view it, you can lump it in that category.
TNA forward.
They just kind of do that stuff.
Yeah.
Which I did want to say this, though.
Vampirella is like the original of that.
Yeah, right. And I want to see, because I love vampire fiction. Is like out of horror, like that's one of my favorite subgenres is vampire fiction. And there is an erotic element to it, and especially being a single man, it's a little bit more enticing than it used to be. We were talking about some of the stuff from the 90s, and you had mentioned Witchblade and stuff, right?
Love it.
I have always loved the darkness. So I actually have been picking these up because I do plan on doing, just as I've been doing the Marvel in the 90s, I plan on doing an Image in the 90s segment. But I do hate it when we do this gatefold shit, like this like centerfold type stuff.
I love it.
I hate this in 90s comics.
No,
I still hate it.
Let me put it this
one
way.
more thing, real quick.
Yeah.
Look what I got.
You got the big one.
Yes, that's the huge one, man. This thing's like freaking crazy.
Yeah. So I grab Witchblade comics.
They do the same thing.
Yeah. So I hate the gate. I hate that. I like it that it happened in the 90s. You know what I mean? I like my X-Force 4 with Spider-Man and Cable. It's all sideways and shit. But I don't want anyone to do it again.
Yeah, right. They did it recently in something, and I got so fucking frustrated with it. I don't even remember what book it was. It was some mainstream book. They did it again. Mike, I actually have all 3 issues of the Frost Giant's Daughter, but I haven't read them yet. But I want to check it out because when I was growing up, I would love sneaking in my stepdad's room, into my parents' room, and I would go into his closet where his comics were and other various magazines, But he had all of his Savage Tales of Conan there. And I would, being, a 10-year-old, those are very fascinating.
Man, those first Cimmerian from Ablaze. Yeah, I didn't like that first one. I think, what was it, the Black Forest one?
Yeah, I fell out immediately, but I heard that they've gotten.
So did
people say really good things.
I didn't love the art in it. I don't feel like the art should be drawn. I don't feel like Conan should be cartoony.
I dig that.
Yeah, in that case,
those books have always had that. Almost like, I don't know of a better artist but like a Joe Jusko type, like realistic fantasy novel cover.
Yeah.
Type
I
thing.
thought Ron Garney's art was great on the newer Conans from a couple of years ago when Marvel first took it over. I thought that was great.
He's just a great artist, and his Conan was, I thought, very striking. I liked his Conan artwork on that Savage Tales better than Azrar's artwork on the Jason Aaron one.
Yeah, and I liked Azrar's artwork a lot too, but Ron Garney was knocking out of the park. It's the only reason I'm reading Juggernaut, by the way. Too.
The artwork is amazing. Yeah. I read it too because I really like Fabian. It
turned out to be good.
I got to meet Fabian and do a panel with him one time and spend some time with him. And Fabian, I will just say, is a super cool cat. Yeah. Him and Mark Bagley are both super cool. And I like, so I had this panel with Fabian. And I was like, so we'll just ask the audience some questions and we'll talk. I have some questions too. He's like, sure, that's fine. And I asked him too. I was like, is it Nicieza? And he goes, you nailed it. And I love it when someone says, you actually nailed my name, because I get so many of them wrong. Yeah. So we did the panel, and I kept everybody in the audience kept asking him questions about Deadpool because he's the co-creator of Deadpool.
Yeah.
And I kept asking him questions about Night Thrasher because I'm a huge New Warriors fan from the 90s.
Of course.
And he takes me down. He goes, have you met Mark yet? And I go, Bagley? And he goes, yeah. I was like, no. He's like, I want you to come meet Mark with me. And so we go down to meet Mark, and he goes, Mark, this is that dude I was telling you about. He's a big Night Thrasher fan. And Mark Bagley stands up and gives me a hearty handshake, puts his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, I knew there was one of you in Alabama.
That's awesome. I also love, and you're probably way more read than Night Thrasher than me, but I do have a lot of Night Thrasher comics. Nice. Like Night Thrasher was definitely a big deal for me, and him and Rage. I also like Rage a lot.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, and that's not like a I don't know why I did. It's not like a fucking 1994 Black Lives Matter thing. Just for whatever reason, they just showed up. You know what I mean? I just love the way they look. You know what I mean? I just love like their style, and Night Thrasher was just cool. And by the way, that little thing that you guys did, it's the Night Thrasher stuff was classic on that and on Bob's channel. Like, someone needs to go back to that original you like pushing Night Thrasher, and someone needs to do like a 5-minute clip of that, because that was hilarious. I was in the chat making fun of shit like I normally do, you know what I mean? But it was just really fun.
Was that the night we came up with Ghost Thrasher?
Yeah, the Ghost Thrasher. The Ghost Thrasher. Someone needs to go back in, take that video, and make a cool cut for people that don't want to sit for an hour.
We're gonna make it happen. That was such an on the nose thing, because like a Will from Hero and the Kid had picked Ghost Rider. Yeah, and I had seen the people in the chat being like, "Oh, Ghost Rider," and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to lose this one." And I just randomly was like, "No," but see, in my world, Night Thrasher is the spirit of vengeance.
And a lot of crazy, dude, I can't even remember what happened, but a lot of fun and crazy stuff was happening in the chat that you guys played off of too. So a lot of classic moments there that, there's, what's funny is we do these 2 or 3 hour chats, you know what I mean? Ghost Thrasher, Fable, is we do these 2 or 3 hour chats, you know what I mean? But like, there's not enough Joe Roganing, which what I'll say is like, he does the 3 hour conversation, but there's also a ton of like clip cuts. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? Dude,
I could clip this out into 10 different conversations, but I just don't have the patience to do that. But
it's the patience thing, right? It's the patience thing, right? But
it's because he's got Jamie to do that shit for him.
Yeah, exactly. The 7-minute video though is a big deal on YouTube. You know what I mean?
You're right. That 7-minute Ghost Thrasher pitch, like that could work.
A 7-minute Ghost where you introduce it, or the preamble where someone says Ghost Rider, you introduce it. If someone like cuts that out. You know what I mean? That's a great video. And that's on Bob's channel. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's a great video for him. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Yeah. But that was great. And I also love Night Thrasher. I think what was hard for me though, is that I'm such a huge Ghost Rider fan too. In my whole pulp, we already talked about Mackie and stuff. In my whole like pro pulp 90s, like I'm a big fan of all the shit that people talk shit about in the 90s. You know what I mean? What would he throw at? Oh, Ghost Thrasher?
Ghost Thrasher, man. We're going to make it happen. I got a 5-year plan for Blade. Y'all just wait. Marvel's going to call me one day.
Dude, that's going to start happening. Like some of these comic YouTubers with big followings.
Well, did you notice that Bobby from Comic Storian is doing a backup in a Bloodshot comic for Valiant? That was just announced today, I think. On Twitter, I saw it.
Yeah, well, then that's the start. That's the start, because it'll get bigger. You know what I mean? What was Night Thrasher's last appearance? What was his last appearance?
His last appearance that I saw was in the Marvel Legacy, Marvel 1000 bullshit or whatever it was, the Marvel 1000 thing. Yeah. Because there's the whole thing about the Masked Raider or whatever. And he was part of the investigative team with Blue Marvel. But I don't think Al Ewing has picked back up on that since.
No, and that was the one page. Those are those one pagers, right?
Yeah. So that's the last time. So he's back. Al Ewing brought him back. And so I think he's got plans for him, but we'll see where he goes. But right now it seems like, what was it? Sword? I think maybe Sword's going to lean into some of that stuff because he's kind of going to get cosmic with Sword.
Yeah, but Night Thrasher doesn't belong in Sword.
No, he doesn't. That's the thing too. It's and they were going to do that new Warriors book with
it's still happening.
Snowflake and Safe Space, right?
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen because I think because of the shutdown, the Diamond shutdown, Marvel had time to really look at the reaction, and it's been MIA. In fact, that whole push for Outlawed has been kind of gone. And here's the thing. I love a new Warriors book. Night Thrasher was going to be in it. I was going to pick it up. But every time they try to bring in a new Warriors book, they try to create a new team for a new generation. No. We're grown up now. We want Night Thrasher, Firestar, Justice, Nova, Speedball, Rage, Darkhawk, Silhouette. That's what we want. We're old now. We've got money. Put out an actual legitimate Night Thrasher book.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that.
A new Warriors book. We'll do it.
But here's the thing with Safe Space. Like that had such a. Remember, you can have negative reaction or positive reaction. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
in today's world. You know what I mean? So I don't know what happened with that. And by the way, Kibblesmith is a really funny writer, because I got into, and I thought when Scotty Young was writing Deadpool, like I jumped back into it. I thought Scotty Young was the guy to he's smoking, guys. He's puffing. Oh, maybe not. Maybe he died. No, he's back.
Shut up.
I thought Scotty Young was the guy to bring me back to the Joe Casey Deadpool, the original Deadpool, which I'm rereading now on
Joe
Unlimited.
Kelly.
Or Kelly, not Joe Casey. Joe Kelly Deadpool. And like it, I didn't mind it. It was good, but I was a little disappointed in it. But I read Kibblesmith wrote the long forgotten, because Deadpool versus everyone is just boring to people. But Kibblesmith wrote the Deadpool versus Black Panther 4-series miniseries, and I was laughing out loud at that. Like,
I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, and like all the versus the Marvel Universe versus history, and Deadpool versus X. You know what I mean? People forget about them because there's just been so many, and it's not even sure whether they're in continuity or something. But I was actually, and I realized I was laughing at it because I was not laughing at Scotty Young's, who's a great writer, and there's nothing wrong with it. I just expected it to be really funny. So that's what got me into the Kibblesmith New Warriors. Like, I heard the controversy, but I thought, like, oh, he might actually make me laugh with that, because it's obviously a fucking joke.
I think that's the point too.
Yeah.
I think because he was a fucking like late night show writer, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know which one he wrote for, but he wrote for one of those shows, like either Colbert or
yeah, exactly,
or Fallon. He wrote for one of those shows. He did an incredibly funny like 4-issue run on Quantum and Woody, where they were recycling the 90s foil that was left over, which I think is just a great joke in and of itself.
I got to read that.
Bro, there was a 12-issue series, and they had Kibblesmith, and then Elliot Rahal came in and finished it up.
That's cool.
But every issue had a foil variant that they literally went to the company that made all those foil covers, and they still had sheets of all this extra stuff left over. So they reused the foil that was made for the 90s cover. So the Wildcats #4 foil, that's on one of the covers. Superman returning with the mullet, the fireworks foil, that was one of the covers. Like, that's like so freaking funny. This company still had just rolls and rolls of this, because that's how excessive the 90s were.
How are they still open?
I mean, I guess I don't know. I need to look back at the video.
Yeah.
What do they foil? What do they chromium? Like, I'm sure there's a market for it, I guess.
There's a chromium market somewhere. So
it's starting to slowly come back, bro.
Yeah, and I'm for it.
I am for it.
Just don't charge you $6.99 for them. Yeah.
Oh,
so
they will.
So Kibblesmith is actually funny, and let's be honest, it was the CG people and the people that don't admit to being CG. Those people went nuts.
You're right. Those names are so on the nose. It has to be humor.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I mean, it didn't seem like they got it. You know what I mean?
But here's the thing, though: is do we trust Marvel editorial to view it that way? Do you get what I'm saying? Because editorial seems pushed in a different direction, I think.
Yes. But it wasn't going to be making fun of it. But Kibblesmith, like from what I can tell, Kibblesmith is like more left-leaning guy kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
so am I, to be honest. I mean,
that's what I mean. So
I don't think that will surprise a lot of people, but
yeah, and he's not making you know what I mean? He's making a joke of it because he's actually a funny guy, and then just the community didn't realize it. You know what I mean? And like people jump on that stuff. It's not even a lot of them aren't comic book fans. You know what I mean? A lot of them are, YouTube followings, that's what they do. Like, that's what they get is that, and I'm not going to name names. I can think of one comic channel in general that's not the CG channel, but I can think of a couple of names that's what they do. You know what I mean? Like, they just hate on things, or they just get the controversial story, and that's how they get their hits. You know what I mean? They don't think that critically, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Like, that's what got on fire. But it's like, I had just read that, and I'm going to go read that Quantum and Woody as soon as I could find it. But I had just read that, like Daredevil, that Deadpool and Black Panther. I was like, no, this is a comedy writer. You know what I mean? Like, he's screwing around. So I hope that comes to the light of day.
Did you read his Lockjaw?
No.
He has a really nice Lockjaw miniseries too.
Does he? The only thing I've ever read of his is the Deadpool Black Panther.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that set me in a good light, because I thought I was reading a wasted story, basically. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was just trying to get back into what Deadpool was doing now.
One of the things that really impressed me about that was that it was kooky and it was funny, like a Deadpool book is supposed to be, but Black Panther was never betrayed as a character.
Never.
So I had high hopes that no matter how ridiculous the newer characters were in the New Warriors, that like people like Night Thrasher and Justice would be treated with respect, because Kibble Smith also seems to understand his anchor into the history and legacy of Marvel, at least through what I've read in Lockjaw and the other word, Black Panther especially. So
yeah, and I think it will, and that has to see the light of day. You know what I mean? Like those people have been paid. Like those early issues.
They made that whole New Warriors TV show and they never released it. So they made a whole season of a New Warriors TV show and never released it.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I didn't know they made a whole season.
It was going to be like on Hulu or some shit. I think they filmed like 8 episodes. Mm. Yeah. Never released. I could be, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they only did the pilot. All right, you keep talking. I'll look it up. God damn it.
Yeah. If New Mutants came out.
I didn't think that Chaos was going to show up in here and use our own bits against us and be like, prove it.
Yeah. If New Mutants came out, which by the way, I have good vibes towards, maybe because I had low expectations, but if New Mutants came out, there's no way you film something. It's not the tapeworm of studios. There's no way that you film something, you just don't throw it on streaming and just spend less marketing money on it.
Okay, they only completed the pilot.
Okay, they did complete. And that never got released.
Never got released. They committed to a series, but the production, the remainder, was never completed. So they only did the pilot.
And Hulu did that a couple times, because weren't they supposed to do a Ghost Rider show, and all that came out was Hellstorm?
Yes, because they were going to do, and then I remember hearing that.
So, yeah, and then Hellstorm came out because it was easy. Ghost Rider was going to be a little bit too expensive.
Yeah, it was a freeform series. They ordered the pilot.
Oh, we got so lucky then. We got so lucky.
Yeah. What did they do? Was that the channel that did Cloak and Dagger?
Yeah, the only
I never watched that.
Yeah, the only MCU I couldn't get through, and I know now some of it's not considered MCU, but at the time, Netflix was MCU. I don't give a fuck what you guys say. Now that Feige's taken over, it's a little bit questionable. But the only one I couldn't get through was Cloak and Dagger. It was too CW for me.
It seemed that way to me. I never watched it, but it seemed that way from the trailers.
Yeah, I got through the first episode, and it was so. And actually, to be honest, the first season of Runaways was good, and I'm trying to get through, because I pay for Hulu, so fuck it. I'm trying to get through the second season. I know the third season is even worse. You know what I mean? So it's just very mellow. I can't do the melodramatic stuff. That's why the CW shows like hurt, but and that's the way those shows are in a big way. So
Speedball can be one of Ghost Thrasher Rogues only if he returns to the role of Penance.
Wait. The role of Penance?
Yeah.
From Generation X?
No, from the Civil War era of the Warren Ellis Thunderbolts. After, Speedball was part of the New Warriors crew that caused the
Civil War.
Yeah, it started Civil War.
Yeah.
So he became this character called Penance in the Warren Ellis Thunderbolts run, where he put himself in an Iron Maiden and was because pain activated his powers to another level.
Yeah, one of the few Warren Ellis things I never touched.
See, I actually like that run a lot. So
I've heard it was good. Yeah, a lot of those English writers that I love and I say are I am woefully underread on their superhero stuff.
I'm pretty sure I've read it all, the superheroes and their. I just when I in the 90s when I started following indie creators and I started liking some of the other stuff, like I absorbed everything that they did and continue to do so, and they've all done superhero work, some strong, some not so good. I even have all of Warren Ellis's Excalibur run, bro, from the early 90s. So
I have a lot of that, yeah. Well, he has a great run on X-Man that people don't know about.
Dude, that Counter X shit is amazing, bro.
Yeah. I'm a huge X-Man fan.
I was there.
Yeah.
Brian Wood.
Warren Ellis has a lot of these random runs that were really good. Like people don't realize it, and now he's like a little bit in the Darklands.
Yeah.
But yeah. Some of it's just too much. I never read it, or I was getting laid or something like that, and I stopped reading comics for years. But yeah, I didn't know Speedball changed that way, and I've read Thunderbolts on and off and stuff. I was definitely in that group of Thunderbolts #1, where that one of the best twists in comics ever.
Oh, dude, yeah. I was talking to Mike about that today because he's thinking about, for our 10K subscribers contest, he's thinking about donating a Thunderbolts #1 signed by Mark Bagley. And so that led me to a conversation about how much I fucking love Thunderbolts. And I told him, I was like, I have a Thunderbolts #1 signed by Mark Bagley, and I have a Thunderbolts 36 signed by Bagley and Nicieza when he showed up. And I was like, I would never fucking give those away. So I was like, I love Thunderbolts so much. It was so soap opera-y. I loved it. But Ellis took the idea, Speedball bases, his whole powers is based on like kinetic energy. So once he starts bouncing, the more he does it, the bigger the power gets. So the idea that Ellis threw in was that he's in this suit that's like an Iron Maiden suit, and it's like puncturing him all over the place, right? And so the pain, the potential energy is being converted. So he winds up on a power level unheard of, and he's not just bouncing around because that's all that they could think of to do with him in the 90s. Oh, he bounces, but like. In this one, Warren Ellis was like, no, if he can do this with kinetic energy, like this would work. And then he was like, dude, it's pretty BA, but a lot of people thought it was very out of character. And I'm like, I don't think it's out of character because he just went through like the most traumatic event that a person could go through, which is basically killing a playground school full of children.
Yeah. I can't believe that happened in 2006, by the way.
It's Mark Miller, right? They're like, you got the keys to the kingdom, Mark Miller. Here you go. Yeah. What do you want to do?
That's one of those things where you say that would never happen today, but when you realize that happened, like, what was it, 5-6 years out of Columbine, it's like, someone might do that today. Like that's one of those things you think would never happen today.
Yeah.
But that happened like, in like the heyday of school shootings, essentially. You know what I mean? So,
no kidding.
Yeah. I still think that's crazy because maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I reread at least. I was trying to read all of Civil War because I was only dipping in and out kind of thing. It was just so big.
Yeah.
Probably when the Civil War movie was coming out. Like I was like, I should read some of this. And I reread that. I remember reading Speedball killing a bunch of kids had more of an effect on me in like 2014 than it did when I read it in 06, you know what I mean? 05 or whatever it was. So yeah, I mean, I may have just been older, you know what I mean? Also, but yeah.
It's also when Dwayne died. That's when they killed Night Thrasher, and luckily they brought him back. So
yeah, I mean, they always come back, right?
Yeah, they always do.
What's the difference between because Strong Guy has similar powers, right? Who might be the next X-Men, by the way? But
I don't think he will be, but we won't find out till June.
Till June, he was lower.
Did you vote? Did you vote?
I voted for Strong Guy. I always like Strong Guy.
Did you really?
I don't know why.
I voted for Forge.
I love Forge too, dude, but Forge is just so obvious. And Forge has been there.
But Hickman writes such a good Forge, man.
Listen, Hickman can write whatever he wants, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, he should just add Forge. Like Forge has already been there a bunch,
I'm cool with all of them, but Polaris. Like I've never been a big. I just been like, Yeah, that's the only one.
Polaris will work. People forget like how embedded Polaris is, by the way. Like Polaris was a part of the X-Men when it restarted.
Before Claremont.
Yeah, exactly. Like people forget how embedded she is. They just think she's a Magneto spinoff. Yeah, I agree. You know what I mean? Because as great a power that is, there's just so many fucking psychics. You know what I mean? So many telepaths and stuff that like the metal power, they make it a little bit bigger than it is when you have 18,000 psychics that, you know what I mean? Like Kid Omega seems to be able to do what no one else can do at some point, So Boom Boom.
My second choice is Boom Boom. I've always had a thing for Boom Boom.
I love Boom Boom too, but Magic. I've always loved Magic, but Hickman Magic mixed with the only good thing about the New Mutants movie was the girl that played Magic.
Yes.
Has just found a new spot for me. And that I think that is my favorite. Although I don't want to say it was shit talking about Claremont, but my criticism of Claremont earlier, I think that Magic miniseries is my favorite Claremont. I think it might. I think it might be. I got to rethink that a little bit because I actually do like Claremont. Again,
I love God Loves Man Kills. That's when I first met him, the very first time, that was the book I took to him, and I was like, "Will you sign this?" And I was like, "I just want you to know, I think this is the best X-Men story ever." And he looks at me and he goes, "Well, it was intended to be."
It was intended to be. Oh.
And then he won me over because he goes, "You ever notice how was it Strider? Yeah, it's Strider, right? Not Stryker, Strider."
Yeah.
All right. He goes, "You ever notice how he looks like Mike Pence?" And I was like, "Ah."
How'd you know?
He does. And then on that panel, he kept like talking shit about Trump, and I was like, "Mr. Claremont, you're in Alabama.
You're in Alabama." Yeah.
He's like, "I don't give a shit. I was from England."
I'm from England. What was I going to say? Oh, you know what I do want to read, which I'll read sometime this year. I'm going to go reread the Outback portion of his writing, that end part.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually read it. I think I have a few comics that I read as a kid. Like I have them.
Really loses me there, man, because there's so much long shot. There's so much long shot, man.
Not a big long shot fan. Yeah, but it's just like it's one of those things that was so long, but people forget that the X-Men were Australia based for a long time.
Yeah, this is like post Mutant Massacre, Follow the Mutants era.
Right there. Yeah. It's the end of it. It's almost the end of his. It's almost the end of his run, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Almost, right? And then, Jim Lee starts really taking over. But I do want to reread that just because it's so different. I almost feel like it's going to be like the Krakoa change. You know what I mean? Like the biggest part of X-Men now is like changing their setting, right?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of Sidri in the mansion. Like, what are they going to do with the mansion in the future? Like when Hickman's done, you know what I mean? Like how much of all this is going to stick? Like it.
None of it will stick. They'll go back to being the school in Westchester.
I doubt
eventually. It. I think they will. 100%.
When you say eventually, that's a different story, right? Like maybe like eventually is what, 5 years?
Maybe 10 years. Okay. They'll be back there.
Okay, you win on that, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, what I'm starting to realize, from reading like Hoxpox, and I thought there's going to be this tight story with an ending, and I'm starting to realize what I was reading, the stuff that he said before. I don't think we're going to get a tight ending.
I really feel like we are, because I have such trust in Hickman that I think that he's got an act 1, 2, and 3. Right?
I think that.
Right. I think it's going to end. I think like as much as they've been leaving it out, I think Moira and the Phalanx and the whole like technomancy thing, like they're not the technomancy, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Nimrod.
Yeah. Like I think that is the ultimate thing. And I think it's brilliant is viewing the idea of man versus mutant, but then machine is the next evolution. And that's the true threat. Right. So I think there is an end game. But I think for the most part, and I think where people are falling off of X-Men is that they think that everything that's an X book is a part of it. And it's not. Some of it is just, this is where we are right now, the Krakoan era. Here are the mutants we're not using. Do what you will.
Yeah.
And as long as Hickman approves, you're good.
I think a lot of people thought Excalibur was that, and it turned out to be like an important part of Ten of Swords, right?
Only because of the Apocalypse thread. Everything else
it still did, right?
Yeah.
So X Factor is what you're saying, Hellions is what you're saying. Here's why, though, I've started to think it wasn't that we're not going to have a tight ending. Like we're going to have an act 1, 2, and 3, and Hickman's going to ride off into the sunset with his money. But when I realized what he started saying, what he's approaching this differently than he is Avengers and Fantastic Four. Like now when I realize his early interviews when it was all starting, he's saying that he needed to redefine X-Men because it was in that rut that everyone thought, which I don't think he got it out of. I think he just got me to buy it, and now I like it more. Right? Like I just had I had a good starting point where I would just dip in and out, of stuff. But now that I think about it, he wanted to redefine what was happening with X-Men. He wanted to go a little bit beyond the Malcolm X MLK thing that it's been, right? Which is great. It's just had been it for 40 years, right?
Yeah.
So what the next writer does with it, where the next head of X does with it, who knows? But I think he put them on a political level and fucked with all the future stuff a little bit that X-Men had always done. You know what I mean? So he's going to have an ending, but I think what he said I think it was in Powers, there's no way to win. Like when they found out that there was no, you know what I mean? That there's no way to actually win. I think that's what he's going to leave. I think when he leaves, that's what he's going to leave out there.
You think when he leaves, it's all just set up that somebody else continue this journey? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's somewhere in between what you just said and what you just said right there, and then what you said. There's going to be an act 1, 2, or 3. There's going to be a definite line. There's going to be a definite Hickman's done line, right? But I don't think it's going to be as tight as we all thought during Hoxpox. I don't think it's going to be. You know what I mean? Like, I think his point, and he told us this was his point. I think his point was to redefine X-Men. Like his pitch that he said he's not going to show. His pitch was like what was wrong with the X-Men and all its convolutedness, and what needs to be done to fix it. So I think what he's doing is just drawing. I think Hoxpox was the line in the sand.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have his 3 acts, like you said. So I think there'll be a definite line when Hickman's done. But I think his intention is that this is where X-Men go before it. You're not going to get Matt Fraction, Jason Aaron X-Men anymore. Like there's no room for that.
I think he's got a 3-year plan. I think that the first year ended with 10 of Swords, right? Yeah. And that was the end of the first act, basically. Yeah. And it just...
I thought it was 2. Is it 3?
Yeah. What's that?
I thought it was 2.
He said 2, but it seems like it's 3.
It feels like it because we haven't touched. Because
we've been Dawn, Reign, and there's something after Reign.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying? I think the pandemic messed with it, right? Right. The shutdown and maybe the delay. But so right now we're in Reign of X.
We were supposed to have the Moira miniseries already.
Yeah, and apparently there's rumors saying that that's not going to happen at all now. But here's the thing: Moira will get gotten back to, and I think I get what you're saying, and maybe that's the case. And maybe Marvel will be like, this Krakoan era is successful, and here we go. I think that this was started with the end in sight. And they have said, Destiny told Moira, you have 10 lives unless you make the right choice at the end of the 10th. Right? She says something to that effect.
No, Destiny says, you have 10, maybe 11. There was no, you make the right choice.
Okay, maybe 11.
Yeah, it was
maybe 11.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think there's a maybe 11. I think that this whole thing ends with the death of Moira and a restart, and a new writer can come in and fill in the gaps however he wants.
Something like that, yeah. My only problem is that this Krakoan X-Men is mixed too much with the other Marvel universe. So it's definitely the 616 still.
Yeah, but here's the thing, man. And this is something that still fascinates me, and I would like to see more exploration on this. So we're led to believe with the different timelines of Moira, we're led to believe at a certain point that are we to really believe that Magneto and Xavier have been fake fighting for years? Because Moira comes to them early. Do you get what I'm saying? So I really still think that I don't know. I still think there's some twists to come. Yeah. And I was actually very disappointed that 10 of Swords didn't give us a big twist.
Yeah. I think 10 of Swords was to end the Apocalypse story.
I get that. I think so too. And I think it was the best Apocalypse story I've ever read.
Yeah. Honestly. It humanized him. Well, did we talk about this? Who was I talking about this? I love it. And I agree with you. The best Apocalypse story I ever read. But you know what I mean? The difference between Apocalypse and Magneto, was that, Magneto is Malcolm X and Apocalypse was some super fascist. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Empowerable. You know what I mean? He was supposed to be the actual bad guy, and they, is another villain they humanized. So I agree with everything you said there, but it's almost like that's what Apocalypse was supposed to be. And now, like, he's in love. You know what I mean? So, I mean, because I'm an AOA guy through and through. Love it. My favorite, probably maybe my favorite 90s thing, to be honest. All the 90s we talked about. And I agree with you. It's the best apocalypse story, but it's like, it's not the first time he's not been a villain, because people forget he fought on the X-Men side literally in the Zach Thompson run against Nate Gray. People forget because it was only a couple panels, but it humanized him like it should have. It ended his story. It was just well done in every way. I just keep thinking that Apocalypse is supposed to be the ultimate bad guy. You know what I mean? The unrelenting, and actually they kept him that way. He was still the unrelenting pro mutant guy. We just found out the whole time it was because he was from another universe. So I don't know, but yeah, it was awesome. I think they did.
I definitely think that's coming back around too. Like whatever threat the X-Men eventually face at the end of the Hickman run, Apocalypse and his horsemen are going to be like the last cavalry to ride in to be like, they're here. We have hope. That's what I think. What's that? Yeah, right. They're going to be, I think so. And I think Genesis is a fascinating character, and I'd like to see that explored more. So, you never know where they're going to go with this, but
Genesis was actually somewhat disappointing because when that reveal was like one of the worst reveals to me. Because
it was so obvious, man.
Yeah, I thought it had already been revealed, to be honest.
Yeah.
When I read it, I thought we knew this. Like my comic book reading, like that, just knowing beats and stuff. I go, oh, that's the big reveal. I was like, I felt like I knew this. Maybe I got lost somewhere in the
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said that in my weekly comic book review, where I was like, they reveal that it's her, but pretty sure we already knew that it was her.
In the same book, by the way, that they reused art panels and stuff, which I'm fine with. I don't think
there was so much backlash over that, man.
Yeah.
There's so many people like, this is so lazy. I was like, I thought that was genius.
Yeah, the reusing panels I was fine with because we get it the same way. You know what I mean? And then people don't realize that the story is being retold from a slightly different perspective.
Yeah.
Where I get what they're talking about is the $11 a story. Do you know what I mean? Like the $12 story, whatever it was, I get it in that sense. When you bring in the money, okay, that's a little bit tough, right? But but when you think of the, the slight layering, like that they both fit together in the same story.
Yeah. And then when you read the more true story told by Genesis, as opposed to Summoner's story, which was, Summoner said himself, like, I sell lies. Like, that's what I do. I summon lies. And then he died so quickly in Ten of Swords, like so nonchalantly. Wolverine killed him.
Yeah.
It was so random and weird. That's the one thing I didn't like about Ten of Swords. Here's the thing though, is like, I keep telling people this. You don't have to read every X book. Just read all the Hickman stuff. And Hickman will lead you, that's all you got to follow if you want to follow the main thread. Yeah. But there are other X-Men books I really like. I really like the Percy stuff with Wolverine and X-Force, and I'm really liking Marauders still. So,
yeah. Are you a Hellions guy? Some people hate it. Some people love it.
Hellions. I keep forgetting to mention that. Hellions may be like every week whenever there's a new X title, I usually go, okay, there's a new X title. And sometimes when it's Hickman, I get really excited. I'm really excited about one of his newer issues because it's about Laura and them coming out of the vault or whatever.
Yeah. I can't wait for that.
And but every time a new Hellions comes out, I'm like, I'm so excited to read this one.
It's just fun.
It's so much fun, bro. And I've never cared about Nanny or Orphan Maker or Wild Child. I've never cared about Wild Child outside of Age of Apocalypse.
I was going to say, yeah.
I love those characters now, especially since they've died and come back. Like, crazy stuff. They've completely reinterpreted it. And it's so fun. I've never been a Sinister fan either. Even when Gillen did all of his clone stuff, right? Like, it was never my it was never my cup of tea. But I love Sinister now. I love it because it's played for fun. It's played for jokes, but it's still a serious book.
I've enjoyed Hellions a lot too. It's almost like, Thunderbolts is also like Marvel's Suicide Squad, but so Hellions is feeling like X-Men Suicide Squad a little bit. I've liked it too. To be honest, I've just had fun with it. I've liked every X book. In fact, those X, if I wasn't reading Venom and the X books, I would be purely waiting for Marvel Unlimited. stuff. Like that's like literally the only mainstream that I'm attached to buying. And when Donnie Cates goes and writes ASM, I'll start buying that too. But that's, that's it. So, and I've just enjoyed it a lot. I just love Hickman. I read everything that Hickman does. I still need to catch up on a bunch of stuff. I need to finish East to West. I haven't finished it. But yeah, I've just enjoyed it so much. I've loved every book, you know what I mean? And what it reminds me of is the 90s when I couldn't afford every book. Yeah. And like my friends, like Age of Apocalypse, we were all trying to collect it all, but we all had to one guy had to buy Gambit in the externals, and I was buying Marvelous X-Men and Weapon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And now you can go dollar bin, find them all day.
You can go dollar bin, find them. But today I can today I can afford it. It's stupid expensive. It's like silly to be buying it like this. Like it's just idiotic. But it just feels so throwback to me. Like now I'm old, I can afford it. I just wish I can find 12-year-old Chris that I can just give these stacks of comics to I don't want. You know what I mean?
Oh shit. I would know so much more. And I would also slip a note, be like, start YouTube in 2010.
Yeah. Yeah.
Start a comics YouTube channel in 2010.
Yeah.
Fable says Hawkspox, what brought me back into the hobby after 25 years.
Happened a lot to a lot.
I would have never met the PCP Army without Hickman. You would never have been an integral part of the PCP Army then without Hickman.
That's crazy because I feel it's funny because I feel like I've seen Fable in the chats for a long time, but I guess
I know. I feel like I've known Fable for years.
Yeah.
I really do. All right, we're at the end of the stream. I'm not going to keep you much longer. We went way longer than I was anticipating. You know what that means, Chaos? That means we had a great conversation. We got to get you back on again. Maybe we should get you on for a movie review sometime. Do you like movies? You like movies?
Yeah.
Do you like Dags?
Super into porn.
Yeah, we're thinking about doing Debbie versus Dallas. Debbie does Dallas.
Hey, let's review comic book XXX parodies. That's the one I want to be on.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That would be PCP After Dark, everybody. Anyway, we'll get you on something soon. If you want to subscribe to Chaos, which you absolutely should, you should do so with the link provided for you down in the description below. Chaos, tell us a little bit, once again, about your channel, final thoughts, and what you got coming up, if anything.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for these channels that put in the work because it's worth it. You know what I mean? Like you don't only need something good to say, like Robbie's one of them. You also have to put in the work. It's a Floyd Mayweather thing. You know what I mean? And I know he's an asshole, but he puts in the work and he's talented, and my channel is really not that. Like you just come on and I just talk about comics in the chat whenever I put a review out or something like that. You know what I mean? So for me, it's really, really a lot more lighthearted. So stop by, don't stop by. Like I'm good with it. I'll go find your channel and I'll talk about comics with you there too. You know what I mean? It's all a time thing. But yeah, pop on the channel. I mostly just review stuff like when I'm sitting in the car and stuff like that. And it's really just that level, it's more, my reviews are more me starting the conversation. And then if you want to watch and talk about it, I will answer every comment because the channel's not that big and it hasn't gotten to the point where I can't. Right. So that's it. That's about it. You know what I mean? And eventually when I start doing something with my brother where he'll be on the editing and I could just do the writing and the talking, you know what I mean? I'll start trying to push that too. So
nice. Chaos, thank you so much for being on the channel. I've had a great time drinking some beer, chatting with comics and pop culture and life with you.
Yeah. How many beers did you get to?
Bro, I lost count. What about you? Are we really counting? Are we really counting? You want me to count for real?
Well, I don't know. I got to 6. I got to 6 and 2 Coke Zeros.
Nice. I think I am on the end of the 6-pack I bought today, but I did have one left over from last night. So
there you go.
I think I'm halfway. I think I'm 6.5, but
there we go.
That means it's time to go watch Pumpkinhead so I can do Dylan's horror show this Saturday night. But sub up to Chaos and Comics. This has been a great conversation. We appreciate you, PCP Army. We appreciate the super chat. So we're going to end with a little bit of a Joker video. Thank you guys so much. Station, thanks for rocking with us. We're out.